I got one thing to announce. I get the feeling that people do not really want to read long as fuck posts like this on Tumblr. I am going to fix that. I am going to be working on readings of the CancerChaser blog and post them on YouTube so people who don't really care about reading essays can listen to the situation as well. Because we really need to expose CancerChaser and let tons of people know who much inhumane scumbag CancerChaser truly is.
I've been dealing with an abusive local creeper, and I need to come out with this story now. Rather than identifying his real name, I gave him the name CancerChaser for legal reasons. This master post is an abridged recollection that gets to the point. Each of the 9 chapters and the intro have links that go into depth of what happened in their respective posts. All of this story is real and non-fiction. Introduction to me and CancerChaser, my perpetrator. Caucasian adult man. Near quadragenarian age. He is older than me. Not only older than me, but also older than my eldest sibling. Chapter 1. CancerChaser reached out to me before us to become friends, or at least that is what I thought at the time. We bond for a few months. It was early 2016. I was coming home from Quick Check with a large coffee. The man known here as CancerChaser came up to me and started to talk to me. He talked to me about how he saw me in the post office before and we started having a conversation from there. Chapter 2. CancerChaser reveals that we are in a relationship after months of never telling me outright about it. Then he became abusive to me when I politely suggest him a smartphone. A few days later I saw him and apologized to him for hurting his feelings. He told me that it is okay that he had thick skin. Keep this in mind for what is soon coming. Chapter 3. After we reconciled, he would later lash out at me in public and claim that I was laughing at his feelings. He also asked for money from me after I asked if there was anything I could do for him. No, I just have not run into you in a while. I usually see you walking around. Chapter 4. I made the mistake of giving him another chance, only for him to get jealous of treating a closer friend with less anxiety. I still make the mistake of accepting him anyway. I would eventually learn how costly that mistake was. Who am I? Count Dracula? Chapter 5. I started doing many favors for him. He often asked if he could send me pictures from his phone to his email. When I ask him for favors, he never is in the mood, and when he does do one favor, he left halfway through it. He then harasses me through email. You have some nerve treating me like that and leaving that voicemail. I wasn't a friend to you? I didn't listen to you rant and rave every time you wanted to kill yourself? Remember when you threw yourself onto my living room floor, screaming like a little bitch? Remember that? You are an ungrateful person and you don't deserve my time. Chapter 6. After the last falling out, he calls me with another number and uses manipulation to coax me to unblocking his number. Another mistake I regret doing. As of today I will never unblock people anymore after I blocked unless there is an exceptional reason for it. And if it's because the other person is sorry, then that will never be valid. And CC's intrusive actions are why I am being more adamant. He literally made me have to bear more security like that. Chapter 7. CancerChaser gets in the way of my job. He demands that I take time that was already booked in advance for my job to come see him and puts the pressure on me by asking if I don't like him anymore. This was the final straw. I had enough of his heinous attitude and cut him off for good. So you don't like me anymore? Is that it? Chapter 8. CancerChaser sends me harassment I never wanted. After a phone repair and transfer, he calls me right after to give me hateful abusive harassment. Some time later he sent me an email telling me how much he never appreciated anything I ever did for him while claiming to be a good friend. I end the chapter with a question to ask if he was truly a good friend or not. I'm going to call the authorities if this garbage continues. I was a good friend to you, but you were not to me. Chapter 9. My final thoughts on this situation. Congratulations to CancerChaser. He has acted so horrendous that every other offender that I had to deal with this decade can walk with their heads held high as they didn't conduct themselves in such putrid selfishness. His terrible behavior convinces people to hate everything pertaining to homosexuality to the point of 1860s bigotry. This man is better off shunned from any LGBT community. People may think he represents the worst of chubby chasers, but I call him a travesty upon the human race who just happens to fetishize overweight men. He has hurt too many people and should be ashamed for it.
But wait. There's more.
CancerChaser's newest harassing email. He thinks I am subscribed to his YouTube channel and makes the same threats as before. Stop subscribing to me on YouTube, you nasty, fat-ass whale. You are a deranged stalker.
CancerChaser is a disgraceful blight to the lesbian, bi, gay, trans, queer community. This man deserves to be excommunicated from the movement. His actions are scummy and intrusive. He deserves to be exposed for what he did.
CancerChaser, an asseveration of harassment and continuous violations of personal rights. Introduction. This is the story I was alluding to when I was receiving followers on Tumblr. Story is not the best word here. It's actually a completely non-fiction series of events. I have been working on coming out with this information. It took a long time because I don't own computers and had to do a lot of borrowing. This is about a man who I believe has exploited my trust and feelings, has been abusive to me, and still is participating in harassment of me as of writing. I started writing this on March 22, 2018. He has sent me a message very recently and I never sent him anything at all since last October, and that message was to leave me alone. And I have proof of his most recent contact attempt. There will be evidence that I can supply. I saved what I could save. There will be nothing but the truth and what I feel, aka opinions, covered by the First Amendment of the United States, where the incidents take place. No lies and all private information will be redacted. Nothing that reveals the perpetrator. I need to write this as legal as I can. I want to make it difficult, if not impossible, for my perpetrator to take legal action against me. I obviously will never send him anything again, so if he finds this blog, it will be independent of any contact from me to him. This whole point of these posts is to raise awareness of the harassment and all the wrongs this man is doing, to make an example of how not to treat people who you happen to have feelings for, as well to help people who have harassment situations of their own. Now for information on me and my harasser, who I will dub as CancerChaser, abbreviated as CC. That nickname is what I came up with and is nothing he uses to identify himself as far as I know. Me. Hispanic adult man. Currently tricentenarian aged. Was approaching tricentenarian age when I first met CC. I need to keep details vague but accurate to preserve the context while not revealing exact information. Morbidly obese and losing weight. Lost over 100 pounds. I am 380 pounds currently. My sexual preferences are open, as I would like to have sex with adult men or women, especially around my age. But ultimately I want a woman for the sake of a family. But most important, I am a lonely person. Very lonely person to the point of desperation. I would love to make anybody happy and try to be the nicest person I can be. So long as it is legal, safe, and possible. I do have friends, but as an adult, many people are very busy trying to keep their roof over their heads with their occupation. Most of my friends live far away or are very busy with their respective occupations. I am unemployed and have been looking for work. Since 2014, I've been doing occasional volunteering or minor paid gigs that pay around $100. I live on disability and with family. What I wanted with friends is to play video games with them. I play video games very often. However, I play alone because I don't have available people. I also been a huge victim of bullying in high school by teachers and faculty, rather than other students. I was also bullied by stepfamily I happened to live with when growing up. This has developed powerful issues of anxiety and depression for me. A year before I met CC, I had to deal with certain narcissistic people who decided to cut ties with me just because of petty reasons of disagreement. I was looking for friends who I can bond with and felt very lonely. CancerChaser. Caucasian adult man. Near quadragenarian age. He is older than me. Not only older than me, but also older than my eldest sibling. And if you have seen him, he has traits that make him seem older than he already is. The only reason I believe the age he has told me is because it is consistent with information I found from looking through his background. He is a gay man who is attracted to fat people. A chubby chaser and a bear, too. Although he does claim that he is not attracted to men who he thinks weigh 500 pounds. He also visibly obese himself. Cannot remember his weight or whether he has told me. I am heavier though and it shows. He lives very close to where I live. In same state, city, and neighborhood. I find him to be immensely promiscuous. As I will reveal throughout these posts, he has no regard to my boundaries as a human being or any obligations I must do. Very manipulative and immensely unpredictable. And many other problems with him as well that I will point out. I need to preface this badly. I am not homophobic at all. I do not support homophobia in any way and thoroughly denounce it. This is about a man's failings being exposed. His sexual orientation is only relevant to his background and need to be mentioned for factual reasons. His horrific actions are not in any way, shape or form meant to represent LGBT community at all. The same applies for his race and gender as well. This is about his harassment and manipulation, as well as many other wrong actions he does as a person. The entire series of CancerChaser blogs is to bring a single person to his responsibilities as a person and to make an example for his wrongdoings. No bigotry in any way, shape or form being expressed. Any bigotry being expressed as a response to this blog will also not be tolerated and will be denounced.
Comments.
A harassing bear? Oh my. I hope that situation gets resolved.
Nice to know you. This cancer guy seems to be a pretty scary and shady guy. I hope that jackass goes to hell for what he did to you.
Chapter 1 I didn't want to do this, but it has to be done. 2018 edition. It was early 2016. I was coming home from Quick Check with a large coffee. The man known here as CancerChaser came up to me and started to talk to me. He talked to me about how he saw me in the post office before and we started having a conversation from there. He approached me with warm kindness, being nice to me despite meeting me for the first time. Nobody has ever gone out of their way to befriend me and treat me glowingly right off the bat. That alone made me feel special. I was very flattered that he seemed to like me. I felt very happy at the time make friends that easily. I wish this would happen often. As I mentioned in the introduction, I am an anxious person who has suffered a history of hurt growing up. So if someone like CancerChaser comes up to me and treats me very nicely, I would be at ease and take it openly. I should have known I was actually being manipulated by his deliberate actions. Now I know he was being nice to me for that reason. He never truly liked me, he simply saw me and felt attracted to me. Retroactively, I realized he was treating me in the same way someone would treat their romantic option. Because of his homosexuality, I was a man he loved. It was never meant to be friendship at all. It was like I was the beautiful girl being hit on by CancerChaser if he was straight. We talked about what we liked. We added each other on Facebook and we exchanged phone numbers. We seemed to have hit it off well. Unfortunately, I would find out that we had different things in mind for each other, much later. One day, a month after we first met, I had plans that ended up getting ruined. Having nothing to do, I called CancerChaser and had a conversation with him over the phone. I asked if I could come over to his house and he accepted. I often go to other people's houses if they give me permission. I would gladly also let them in my home as well. I was welcomed in by CC and he made me feel at home. I do not remember much of what have happened when I went to his house. I think this might damn me because my recollection is very low. I need to point out that I was never drugged at all. I also ate and drank nothing while I was inside his home. I know I was never raped and there was never a moment where my consent was violated at all during that visit, and any other future visit at all. I also never legally signed anything, either, nor did I make any promises. I remember that we talked a lot in that day and in his house. I know I had a good time. I actually was nervous when I went there, but I felt good by the time I left. I naturally completely forgot what happened when I went there because of the later incidents are much more memorable. Edit. I need to amend this now, a day after I posted this, now that remember this. We did actually also hug each other often when we met up in his house. Hugging is something I do often with friends and family often, so it's not out of the ordinary for hugging to happen. And it was entirely consensual. What I can remember is that he had a roommate who he initially stated was his boyfriend but still wanted me. I know this because I saved one of my text conversations with CC. Recovered from an old phone that I stopped using but found recently. I always saw this as a friendship, not a relationship. I will elaborate on this further as it becomes more evident. I never met his roommate at all to this day. He often told me about some story where a girl he knew had a thin fit boyfriend and chose chubby person over him. No details besides that. I need to explain myself. I never had any romantic partner before. I had never been hit on by any man or woman before. When I first met CC, I was completely unaware that his intentions were very romantic in nature. When I showed myself on camera in certain pictures, I was hit on by chubby chasers, but they lived far away and never met me. CancerChaser was the first chubby chaser in real life. I also got invited to gay groups on Facebook and wanted friends from them. I did that because it was mostly obese people, chubs/bears, which I had camaraderie with. But I wasn't a gainer. I just wanted friends. I never wanted relationships with men, because as I stated in the intro, I want a woman to produce children of my own. I should have known that he wanted me as a boyfriend. I only kept him around because I was lonely. I thought I could get him as a friend. We would bond with video games together, as he told me that he enjoyed video games. I believed that he liked me and would do anything reasonable for me. I truly believed in him initially. I will not make mistakes like this again. From all of this experience I now know better and can recognize predatory behavior better, especially after all of the disgusting actions CC would later do. If I make some serious mistakes when I went to his house, it's because of an experience. I did not know what to expect. As my bond with CC grew, I felt happy to know someone I thought at the time valued me. I felt so happy that I wanted to tell him more about myself and open up to him about my past, as well as my trauma. When I eventually did open up, which is a bit later, it was incomplete. He once wanted us to go for Starbucks, but we never ended up going through with that. Whether that was a date or not, it was never specified.
Comments.
The guy seems to be grooming you. If you consented for sex, then you agreed to it. I think it's on you for keeping him around when he had a boyfriend already. He seems to be a filthy cheater. You seem to be completely unaware how gay guys tend to act. If someone treats you nicely like the chaser did, please ask why. And yeah, it looked like he did want to date you. That gay ass wanted to sleep with you. Chapter 2 Tilda lightly implying that your poor warrants drama. My friendship with CancerChaser seemed good for now. No bad blood between us. This chapter will change that. I will be marking incidents of CC starting here with curly brackets with numbers inside. I tried putting different colors, but Tumblr limitations make that impossible. These are important points that will be later referenced in aggregate to illustrate how much of a cancerous man CancerChaser is. I was outside one day and felt very sick suddenly. I had strong stomach pains and I went to the pharmacy to get medicine. I felt weak and fainted. My stomach pain worsened and the pharmacy called 911 for the ambulance. I was greeted by a hateful paramedic while I was on the ground who threatened to bring to a mental health hospital 20 minutes away from the hospital they are supposed to take me in. At the time, I thought he was serious and I got to my feet as I was given the militant treatment for no reason. He asked the hospital to discharge when they were done treating me. I had a bad case of gastritis and gallstones and had to stay in the hospital for 1 day. I discharged the day after rather than the same day and was prescribed medicine. I told CC about what happened and he told me to go report that as soon possible. I had too many plans at that point. Making a report would get in the way, so I felt I had to look past that. Just have precautions if another emergency comes along. Make sure to record it or let the dispatcher know to bring police over as well, so if the same paramedic shows up again, I can get the cop to notice what is going on, hopefully intervene. I know the police have such a bad reputation. However, the police are there to protect you. You're safe unless you are hiding something criminal. And compared to CC, the paramedic is one of the greatest people in the world. I believe CC to be that much worse now. At least I never saw the paramedic ever again. I don't have that luxury with CC. Sometime after I recovered from my sickness, I saw my therapist that I see once every 2 weeks. My therapist let me know that the paramedic was making an empty threat and he had to drive me to the nearest hospital. After that session, CC met me on my way home and invited me into his apartment again. We talked for some time and hugged, too. The paramedic did come up in the conversations. Someone else as well. There was this beggar person that walks around the neighborhood, who asks for money. I have seen him a few times, but never really cared to keep him in mind. He was just another beggar. In a nearby state, beggars and homeless people are rampant. I had to deal with them often. The same goes with the area where I went to college at. Very rarely do I give them money, because I hardly have any money, and I often only have money I need. Keep this in mind for later in this chapter. The first I ever saw him, he asked me for money to eat. I had a card with money value on it and offered to buy food for him. He refused and wanted cash, so I left him alone. The only reason why I am even mentioning him is because Cece also talked about him. That beggar is only interesting for that reason. According to Cece, or whoever told him, the beggar goes around the local area all the time and he is trying to get money for drugs. We talked for some time after. Eventually, he started confessing that his roommate is not actually his boyfriend despite telling me last time that he was. He then started suggesting that me and Cece were in a relationship when I was unaware of that. For the 4 months we were friends, I never knew that we were in a relationship. ATL. This is not how relationships work. How can anybody be in a real relationship when one person is completely unaware? CancerChaser never asked me out in any clear terms. He never expressed clearly in any way that he wanted to be my boyfriend. These things need to engage formally in any romantic relationship, same sex or not. How I am hearing for the first time that I am his boyfriend when he never directly told me? This is insane. I was led to believe that we were friends. I never actually wanted to commit to him. I need to point that it's been 2 years since this particular incident, and I still don't remember this 100% clearly. I am going by what I remember. Caught off guard, I told him how surprised by this, and that I wanted to be nice to him and that I did not like him that way. I only wanted to make him happy, not to be in a relationship with him. I believe that I told him that I wanted to be with a woman, but would do it with either gender. He seemed to be very surprised by what I said. I then showed him a paper of me opening up about my past, which was incomplete. It covers my abusive senior year from teachers and stepfamily and how deeply affected I am by it, but stops there. Does not cover how often I get nightmares from incidents, my fear of talking to people, the lengths of my severe depression, other abuse from other people, or how a friend of 10 years decided to cut ties with me just because of a disagreement. I'll refer to the former friend as J from here on. J is only important as a past reference. Although, the other stuff that never made it to CC was never referenced. I spoke to CC about J several times, how J gets offended over just about anything. CC didn't seem to care at the time. In regards to my coming out, CC told me just to let the past go. I find this to be very inconsiderate, but that is something I must set aside for now. The situation of the past is too much to go into for this story. I feel that CC is enough of a monster as it is, not going to bring in much worse people in. Shortly after, CC said that we had nothing else to talk about and I left. I felt very sad, like as if I betrayed him. I felt like I broke CC's heart. But he never properly told me that he wanted to be with me. I still felt horrible. I never wanted to hurt someone like that. I did turn down someone else who had a crush on me, but that was through the internet, not face to face. That person from the internet is still my friend, though he is now married. I thought CC would never talk to me again. I still had platonic feelings for him and I still wanted to him as a friend, even after this. But if he did not like me anymore, I would understand. I know I should have caught on to that he loved me. Even though he was misleading me, I should have caught on to the red flags that would give away that he wanted to sleep with me. I feel that it's very stupid of me that I actually somehow ended up as his boyfriend without me knowing. I was very naive to how love relationships truly work. After all, I never was in a relationship in real life. Then again, he should have been honest about from the start and not lie to me or drag me into such a love triangle that I was unaware of. He also should have not been manipulating me like that. To take advantage of me like that without being forthcoming about your interest in me. I must have been really lonely and desperate. I really should have cut it off there and stopped talking to him there. It's already that crazy. A few days later I saw him and apologized to him for hurting his feelings. He told me that it is okay that he had thick skin. Keep this in mind for what is soon coming. 2. I am used to walking around eggshells with people, such as J, so with CC. I was getting more comfortable with him and I felt could speak with a bit less of a filter. So what is coming next just blows my mind and reaffirms why I feel I have to be cautious with so many people, as I would never know what kind of people I would be talking to. I had a text conversation with him a few days after that. From the times I saw him, I noticed he had some old model phone. So I made a suggestion of maybe a smartphone would be a good idea to get one if he can afford it. It is important to know why I said that. I had a smartphone Samsung S4 Note at the time. Those cost around $200 at the time I made a suggestion. $200 is a lot of money for me. Being on disability, and by this point CC knew that, I only make enough just to live by. Disposable spending money is hard to come by for me. So that is why I said if he could afford it. It is speaking from my standpoint, not his. He flipped out on me, asking me why I asked, and then asking why I do keep insulting him like that. I never even imagined that I was even trying to insult him. He started insulting me, calling me names, so I just decided to block his number from texting and block him off social media. I was convinced that he does not want to talk to me anymore, so I just decided to leave that relationship. That situation just blows my mind even to this day. If I was being homophobic, racist, sexist, transphobic, or any way bigoted, that would be understandable. If I insulted him directly or made insensitive remarks or references at him, his tirade would be warranted. All I did was suggest an expensive product, no force, no pressure, nothing. Just a suggestion. That was enough to set him off on me. I could not sleep because of how hurt I was over this. I was conditioned that people can get offended over just about anything, and just when I was starting to open up to CC, he proved himself the very person that I was afraid of. I've decided to try to forget about CC and the situation. If CC is going to lash out at me over something he found offensive regardless if I meant it or not, then he is not a healthy person for me to hang around with. I had left other toxic friendships because of similar situations like Jay and some random psycho. 11 days later CC calls me to apologize and for me to make amends with him. At that point, I was convinced he wanted nothing to do with me. I was completely caught off guard by this. Very nervous, I tell him that I am not so much sure about this, and that his behavior he reminded me of Jay. CC tells me not to compare him to Jay. He told me how much he loves me and misses me. I decided to forgive him, because it was the first time he screwed up with me and I could probably look past that. I really wish I refused now. I never felt more stupid now going through this again to write this memoir. I forgave him because my family conditioned me to forgive people for what they do to me, no matter how horrible I suffer and how screwed over I get. From here on out, I decided to be much more careful. If he becomes enraged over minor mentions over a phone, then it's back to walking on eggshells again. Just like with Jay, in fact, CC is only a few months older than Jay. I could draw tons of parallels between the two, much to CC's disgust. But by now, Jay is a far better person now, going by just how horrible CC will turn out at the end. The next time I go to his house, it seemed as everything was back to normal. We talked and hugged like before. His explanation on why he went off on is that he was having arguments with his roommate and he thought I was calling him poor. So the reason I deserved his text tirade was because CC believed I was calling him poor. First of all, he knew I was on disability and that was dependent on family. I know he knew that because he used that on me when he was sending me insults as a response to my insult that I never meant or even implied. Insulting that I am disability and slamming me for being an adult with lives with family. If he knows it's coming from someone like me on those conditions, then it would actually be hypocritical for me to actually be using insults like that. Who would take insults like that seriously knowing what they know? Second, if he is easily affected by subtle implications that he is poor, it is not my fault. I never knew he would be affected by something like that. In regards to his reactive vitriol, it was like I was being homophobic and mocked his sexual orientation. If his apparent financial problems are so sensitive, I was not aware. He could have held back a little or at least told me that this bothered him some way. No need for the hateful tirade. Had I knew, I would have been even more careful and simply asked without any indication of affording. Like interested in a phone? Those are cool. And he has told me that he has a job. Keep that previous line in mind. It is important for a much later chapter. Third, I never found calling people poor, let alone asking if you can afford something, to really be an insult without some context that would make it hurtful. Like calling someone a profane word. If I was really calling CC poor, I would be likely wrong. One way calling someone poor that would be an insult with considerable weight or leverage is if I was someone who was wealthier by a decimal bragging about my income against someone who is a hungry workhorse trying desperately to get by. That is one situation I can see where calling someone poor would be an insult. Not when I am simply wondering if a smartphone is too much of a luxury. CC never told me how much he makes or the amount of bills he has to pay. For someone with thick skin, as told days before the drama, he sure gets very upset very easily. And have a large 5-figure debt to pay off. And yet, if someone calls me poor, I wouldn't be too bothered. I even get asked, "Do you work here?" countless times when I am unemployed. I never flip out over that at anybody, and it actually hurts to hear. Fourth, if anybody ever bought a smartphone, you know that they cost hundreds of dollars. I got my Samsung Note 4 for $200 shortly before CC subjected me to this asinine drama. I raised that money from selling a load of computer parts on eBay. I was very happy with my phone, that is why I asked FCC about it. I was in the mood. And to emphasize the point, the same phone ended up breaking in November of the same year. I had to use birthday money to replace my phone. My phone cracked and the screen blotched. I could not see anything in that phone at all. If my phone did not break, I would be able to share the conversation where CC started bullying me over nothing. To insult me because I was calling him poor over a smartphone is so ridiculous in context, because I had to sacrifice money that was meant for a video game system just so I can still have a smartphone. Seriously, it's like if I said it would be great to get a new truck, Ferrari car, or house, if you could afford it. This is the context that made CC flip out at me. What I suggested was an expensive item in my perspective. There is no way I was even asserting any insults to his income. I asked about affording because I knew firsthand how expensive it was. Now that I really think about it, I don't think he was really mad about being called poor. I think he was mad at me because he could not make me his boyfriend. He outright stated he wanted me. Can I tell you something, sweetie? Okay. I do have a boyfriend, but I want you too. And his feelings got hurt when I told him I did not like him that way back. I believe that is why he was so hurtful to me. He wanted me to be his boyfriend over his roommate, or for him to have sexual relations with me whenever his roommate is not around, which is the case when I was invited to be there. I think he saw that I was friend-zoning him, yet never actually told me upfront that he wanted a relationship with me until he suddenly implied that we were a couple when we were not. I think that is where his anger was, not that smartphone situation.
Comments.
Who the fuck gets this fucking angry over being called poor? I think he has thick and thin mixed up. Or he is one of the shittiest liars ever. Wow. This guy is fucking stupid. Cancer man is really fucking cancer. I get called much worse shit all the time, and he is triggered by poor. Fuck this fucking ass clown. Disgusting fail of a man. What a fucker.
There are gay men who believe every other man is a closeted homosexual. They would hit on men and it doesn't matter if they are gay, straight, single, taken, or married. CancerChaser, as you described, was very much one of those people. You should have not given him any more chances. You should have stayed away. You can forgive but not keep him around. He seems to be very unstable. One day he loves you, another he hates you for calling him poor even though you never said it. He really needs help. I think he has some mental condition and he does not ever take his medication. I feel sorry for you. Sucks that you attract a lot shitty people who become your friends only for them to try to fuck you up. That crazy person who can't buy a phone is an asshole prick. Fuck him up the ass. He has no right treating you like shit if he truly liked you. He must not have any friends at all. If he treats friends like that, then he has not learned a goddamn thing growing up, being so old. You are so much better than him. You actually seem to know shit.
Being called poor does not sound like an insult worth fighting about. This guy is fucking nuts. He is also an out-of-touch dinosaur or something. Who the hell does not have a smartphone in 2018? He must be a really old man. Like 70.
He was pissed out he was poor, so he took it out on you. Piss ass broke mofo he is. Chapter 3 tilde even just laughing gets to him. 2. 3 things I forgot to mention last chapter. And one of them is very difficult to post about. I'll start with that. First is what happened a day after CancerChaser's pointless yet revealing tirade over a smartphone. A certain video was uploaded on YouTube, and I happened to watch it. It was about internet drama between two friends who knew each other for 6 years. I will label them H and A. H seemed to be hyperreactive over minor slights and later posted hateful comments about A. Hey responded with a live stream addressing this situation. H evidently flagged the live stream, and the video I watched at the time was the response to it. It really resonated with me at that moment. H's apparent behavior had strong elements of CC's hurtful attacks on me as well as J's actions in the past the year before that. I originally was going to link the video, but I've decided against it. H has passed away last year, and I cannot bring myself to post any links to this video because I do not want to seem crass and reference a dead person's negative actions. I don't want my message to be overshadowed by directly referencing a now deceased person's controversy. Just know that the video very much resonated with me because of CC. It set the tone of friendship I was dealing with and soon coaxed into back into. Second, rereading the texts from the phone I had sent the first few months ago, I rediscovered something interesting. On May 9, 2016, I showed CC a picture of someone who I found to have resembled him. He replies with, "Ah, no." I then told him about how I once saw someone who I thought was him, but wasn't. I got the vibe that I slighted him, so I asked him if I upset him. He said, "No, are you?" I replied, "No, you just seem to be." Then he stated this: "Don't send me pics of strangers anymore. That's not appropriate." This was before he started claiming me as his boyfriend when I had no idea we were a couple. I really should have noticed the signs and debunked this early on. I am a bit slow in picking up subtle things like that. The other thing I forgot to mention last chapter was that CancerChaser asked me while I was inside his home, after apologizing for putting through his stupid smartphone nonsense, was that if he was a woman would I love and be with him. Trapped in his house, I only told him what he wanted to hear, which was yes. I said that because I was very scared of him, especially if he would send me hate over simply questioning him of affording a luxury item, and I was trapped in his home when he asked. Could you imagine if I was honest in that situation? So yeah, I had to lie, but he lied first, telling me he was taken, then telling me he wasn't. He does not deserve my honesty. He deserves much less now. Now, for the first time, I am going to answer this question for real. No, I wouldn't. I would not have, love, or marry CC if he was a woman. CC would be the woman who would have me for a good while, then screw other men behind my back. Then when we separate, she would take my kids from me, make sure I get no custody, condition my kids to hate me, and force me to pay child support. She would be a disloyal cheater. Given that CC was in real life as a man was looking for someone like me for him to screw with while he was taken, would he be any more loyal if he was a woman in this situation? After we made up, things would be different. I now saw him as a potential danger. He was doing very good until the smartphone debacle. Now that I know how easy he can get upset, I needed to be on guard. I was a bit more distant to him. I did not see him too much compared when we were on better terms. There was a time one day, around a week after I last saw CC, where I was alone and I need a person to accompany me. The friend was not available that day, so I needed someone else. I asked CC as he was available. He told me that he wasn't and showed me a picture of his boyfriend that he was sleeping with. I told him that I am happy he has his boyfriend now. Never met that person at all, either. And I never heard about him since. I did get my friend who originally wanted to accompany me after all. Turns out his doctor's appointment was much shorter than he thought. CC's birthday was coming at some time at the end of the month. When I had money, depending on how much I have, I would buy a friend of mine a gift. Or if I had nothing, I would try to give my friends something. I do not expect anything in return during my birthday. It is completely optional. I will be noting a special reference with curly bracket. Very important for much later to keep in mind. So for his birthday, I got him some cat toys, as he had a cat, and a birthday card. I don't have pictures of the toys, but these are a good example of what kind of toys I gave to CC. I do have a picture of the actual birthday card I gave to CC with his real name redacted. This act of generosity from me to him is crucial to what kind of person CC will turn out to be. At the time, CC seemed to be very appreciating of what I gave him and how I celebrated his birthday. I felt happy that I made him feel good during his birthday. I've seen him once since then in July. He asked when I was going and I answered, to some party in Hoboken. I had fun in there. Not much I can remember. There were people in costume. I haven't seen CC for the rest of the month. Pokemon Go was released in the first week of July. I was busy playing that game for the rest of the month. Tons of people today say that this game is dead, but it is not. There are still a local dedicated group of players in my local area. We still play that game. I must note that there is a gym and a Pokestop in very close proximity near where he lives, as in on the same block of his apartment. I try to not interact with that gym, if possible. 3. In August, I was playing Go and he passed by me. He greeted me and it took a few moments for me to notice him. He asked me if I was playing that game. I answered yes. He went and started talking about how that game is dumb. I really did not appreciate how my passion was being pissed on by him, but that is nothing compared to what is coming next. We sat down near a bench and he wanted to ask if I could visit him again. I was trying to tell him when is it a good time, because I had plans to go to NYC the next day, but he cuts me off and berats me for some reason. I think he was being envious and did not take kindly to other plans with higher priorities claiming my time for him. As I later found out, CC does not care for any real-life obligations or plans you made ahead of time, or anything like that. He will demand like a small immature child what he wants from you or he will throw a fit. Especially what happens over a year later from this incident. So the older man was throwing a fit at me because it seemed like he is not getting what he wants. Overwhelmed by the pressure, disrespectful and immature tone he was subjecting me to, I became very nervous. When I get nervous enough, I started having nervous laughter and he took that the wrong way. He thought I was laughing at his feelings that he had for me. I'm not kidding, he actually told me that. I told him that I wasn't laughing at him and it was me being nervous. I asked what is something I can do to make him feel better. He asked if I can give him $30. I didn't have that kind of money. Luckily he did not seem to care. I refused. He then changed his mind about me going into the house and we both left. Unlike the incident with the smartphone, this was all in real life. In front of my face, seeing everything in action, and hearing his own voice. No text attached to his phone number. Face to face. I was much less surprised about this since I was already subjected to unnecessary drama from the other incident. I need to also make special mention of him asking for money. This is the only instance of him ever asking me for money. He has never done that at any time afterwards. If I was stretching the truth while writing this recollection, I would take something like that and run with it. Creating multiple extra instances of him asking for money or change the amount he was asking for. I could also tie him into being no different as the beggar junkie from a previous chapter. But I am choosing not to lie and being as honest as I can. I do not need to lie. By just telling the truth is enough to show how horrible of disgrace CancerChaser is. Lying about my account here is useless and detrimental to my message. I needed to express this because there is a huge culture on the internet of attacking people harshly for asking for money outside of charity. The term of asking for money is called de-begging, and it is treated in a similar level of outrage to likes of mass murder, pedophilia, and rape. Making a campaign for raising money, whether it is Indiegogo, Kickstarter, GoFundMe, or even embedding PayPal links. All of that considered one of the most egregious acts of taboo a human can commit, and it is met with massive levels of scorn. I will be posting examples of outrage from this culture.
There's a sector of YouTube that I just totally despise, okay? And it is these assholes that come on YouTube and ask their subscribers to help them out because something super traumatic is happening to them. And you know what that super traumatic thing is? Their friggin' computer broke, okay? You know, someone comes out, and let me recreate a typical message that these jerk-offs usually make. Hey man, this is Guy 6924/7, and I'm sorry to tell you guys, but I'm actually uploading this video from my friend's computer, but man, you're not gonna believe this shit. I was playing World of Warcraft for 60 consecutive hours, and that shit fried my motherboard. Yeah, I know, I can't believe that shit either. But guys, I'm sorry to tell you this, I can't afford to buy a new one. So if you guys could, maybe you could all chip in, 50 cents or $1. That would be swell, man. Yo, I even totally put my PayPal account right over in the video description. So you could click that shit and donate. That would be sweet. You know what? Get that shit out of here. Anytime these assholes make videos like that, I just want to throw up.
That stupid cuntbag, the amazing atheist, making a stupid e-begging video about him needing more money so that you guys can buy him a new camera.
I just want to talk to the people out there because there's going to be more than a handful of you that actually give this guy money. And I just got one question for you. Why are you giving this guy your money? This is the part where you answer. Okay, well, if you just don't want to be blunt enough and answer, let me try and break this down a little bit more here for you. All right, this is a man who, and I don't follow what he says, but it's amazing how much of his content gets sent to me because so many people are just so fucking furious with the way this guy conducts business and how fucking leeching, begging, everything else it is. It's hard to miss his videos when they get sent to me so much. I hope this fails. I hope he falls flat on his face. I hope the movie falls flat on its face. And like I said, people, there's no guarantee this movie's even ever going to get made. And all you people that donated, I'd feel bad for you. Well, then again, people that are willing to donate, they take the risk, so, buyer beware. Even though you're not really buying anything per se. Yeah, I hope this movie fails. For the one main reason that James, with all the karma he's whipping up, all the fate, all the destiny, all this other stuff, he deserves to have it fail.
So we asked his viewers to send him donations through his PayPal account. I have no idea how much money he ended up getting from his audience, but I do know that whatever the amount, it wasn't worth paying for the useless fuck to stay in New York so he could try to stick his dick in Lisa Nova. It wasn't too long before the e-beg bug infected our little YouTube atheist community. Brett Keane became well known for it.
On all my different web pages, including MySpace, if you feel the need to support me for the hard work that I do and the loss that I take over and over from these corporate companies that delete people's shit, you can also make a donation and support me. It is nice whenever people are helpful and show their appreciation in that way.
But then in the space of about a week, TJ, Cody, and Captain Awesome all begged for money to fulfill their respective desires. But what's even more problematic about common e-begging practice than explicit or implicit extortion is the opportunity for dishonesty and the unaccountability involved when someone e-begs for a specified purpose. On the extreme end is Brett Keane, who now seems to be begging for rent money every month or two without providing any actual evidence of his need or where the money really goes. Then there's the amazing atheist, who recently turned 26 years old and demonstrated his deficient maturity and overdeveloped sense of entitlement by asking roughly 200,000 people for a birthday present. He did this under the pretense of asking for Amazon gift cards to buy books, which really just reminds me of a teenager trying to get one over on his parents.
What's up, everybody? This is gonna be another e-begging rant. I wrote down a list here of YouTube's biggest fucking slime bags. These e-beggars that have ripped off their own audience. And yeah, folks, I do have a problem with fucking e-beggars. Because that's what they do. They con their fucking audience. It seems that, I wrote down the list here. It seems that these fucking e-beggars are becoming nothing but cyber bums. Everybody's becoming a cyber bum now. That's what it seems like. Everybody wants money. Give me money. Yeah, give me some free money. Get the fuck out of here.
I did not get past the 3-minute mark. I didn't need to get past the 3-minute mark. A large chunk of this upload, the first 3 minutes of this upload, was endless, non-stop fucking begging. But the worst kind of begging. Not DSP begging, no. The kind of begging that I fucking despise, that all of you fucking despise. The kind of begging where he literally goes over every single way under God's green earth you can give him money and support his ass. Every single way, but then has the audacity to say, well, you know what, you don't have to donate. You don't have to donate.
Asking for money on the internet that does not go into charity is considered that much a horrific crime, and these videos prove it. I could have really lumped CC with the EB eggers. But I don't need to. He has done far much worse than ask me for money only one time. But do note that he asked for money.
Much worse than him asking for money is the incident is him lashing out at me in front of me in the street just because he seemed for things not to go his way and because I was laughing. He jumped at me for that. Once again, I did not mean to hurt his feelings in any way, but that did not stop him from giving me verbal assault, this time in the streets, in person. All because he thought things much differently than what I meant. He thinks he is too important for me to miss for some reason and that I needed to be with him for his own gain. C is not my boss, roommate, or colleague. I don't actually owe him anything. He is not family. He never helped me at that point other be my friend, but hasn't done anything that others haven't done better or anything unique. In fact, he came into my life for his interest. I loved how he went out of his way to be my friend and saw potential, but after the smartphone debacle, my view of his suffered greatly and I only kept him after his apology, because I was fooled into thinking he could change. He sure did not change then and certainly not by now. Taking my laughter as an attack right away without context shows how oversensitive he acted. Just like the phone situation, he took something so minuscule that was never meant to be even meant to offend and used for a reason to abuse me. Is there anything I can't do to slight him? Just by laughing, just by asking if he is able to buy a phone. No context needed, he will treat you with verbal abuse. If he feels upset, he will lash out and take it out on you. There is another incident that happened, but I am not sure when did it take place, whether it was 2016 or 2017. We had a real-life in-person conversation and I noticed something odd about his teeth and simply asked him about it. Without revealing details about CC, he responded with something along the lines of, "So what? Have a problem?" in an aggressive tone. I paraphrased that last quote to remove the details I am referring to. Clearly CC proved himself to be reactive and abrasive for just about anything if he slightly gets angry at you. He is an abusive person who latches on you with a fake olive branch and starts attacking you when he feels like it. For the rest of the year I decided to stay away from him as much as possible and not speak to him anymore. I made sure to ignore him, not speak to him, not respond to him, nothing. His second chance is used up and I need to move on. I wish this story ended here, but honestly I am only slightly over a third of the way. It gets much worse, especially around the end. Weeks later, I went to a convention. I spent $50 on a 3-day pass, and it was a huge disappointment. The panels were lacking, the events were very sparse, and aside from the cosplayers, there was almost nothing to do. Half of the day I went to nearby park to play Pokemon Go. I caught my first Chansey nearby. On Sunday, I bumped onto a table, lost my balance, and twisted my left ankle horribly. I was a ton of pain. Convention staff did help me to my feet, and after helping me icing my leg, I limped out and went home. Saw a doctor the next day. Doctor told me it was sprained and I was in crutches for 2 weeks. I was able to walk after I stopped using crutches, but could not walk too much without having pain. 3 weeks after my injury, I went to buy a device called Pokemon Go Plus to help out my Pokemon Go game progress. I had to do too much walking than I should and it hurt my injured ankle. Returning home from the bus, I sat down on a bench to rest myself. CC came up to me and did his whole apology routine like before. The same stuff with his roommate and him fighting, him feeling angry. I just did not care this time. I decided to tell him that I had a girlfriend. I did not actually have one, but it was my way of giving him a hint to take. I didn't want to seem like a jerk. But he did lie to me like that with him, having a roommate that was his boyfriend already and saying that the roommate is not his boyfriend. His lie was inconsistently told. My lie was more consistent and had a point. Its point was so he could leave me alone and not pursue me for a boyfriend. Right now, I have a ton of mental things to sort out. Especially right now because of the effects of CC's horrible actions that I will be talking about later on. This is why I am single and do not have a female partner of my own. I had to deal with my parents' divorce, then the stepfamily coming in and abusing me consistently growing up. Those experiences convinced me that I need to be good enough of a man to keep a relationship going until the day I die. I have too many faults I need to iron out before getting into a serious relationship. I did try to get in a relationship in college, but the woman rejected me and I moved on. I actually thought if CancerChaser knew I had a partner already, he would respect that and I would be useless to him and he would leave me alone. I would later find out how wrong I was. For the rest of the year, I had not much interaction with CC. He sent me some weird picture for some reason. It apparently was sent to the wrong person or something. I cannot remember too much from that. It was some weird picture of some guy or something. The phone would break so I don't actually have the picture anymore. I do remember that picture was unsettling and freaked me out and I asked if he was okay or something. Also he left comments on a public Facebook post of mine. I deleted them for some reason. Here is the whole Facebook Messenger conversation. Hi. What is going on? That's better, let's talk here. I got 2 picture messages of certain men and that's it. Oh yeah, I didn't mean that. How's your girlfriend? Alright. Is everything okay? I feel kinda worried for you. Why? I received those messages and you asked to come meet me somewhere. Why are you worried? Something might be wrong. No, I just have not run into you in a while. I usually see you walking around. I hope everything is okay for you. It is. Just really wanna see you. When can we meet? Busy apply for jobs today. Tomorrow? Tuesday good. Perfect. Also, he once found me outside the library and asked about my girlfriend. I showed a picture of a girl I knew and gave her name. I stated that she is my girlfriend. I haven't talked to her in years. Don't know much about her. I hope she never finds out that I made up a lie that we were together. It was done out of necessity, because I need to keep a potentially dangerous chubby chaser out. It never worked. That is everything about CancerChaser that he did in 2016. I have no recollection if I did meet up with on that Tuesday or if anything went on. Even though, I did feel worried for him from weird ominous pictures. I don't feel that way anymore. I don't care what happens to CC. I have no positive feelings for him at all and I have an overload of resentment towards CC because of what he did in 2017. I forgot to mention my birthday was on December and he never told me happy birthday or even said happy belated birthday. Keep that in mind. By this chapter 1 gave him a gift on his. This will be important later.
Comments. What an asshole. You gave a gift and he still treats you like shit and asks you for money? Has he ever heard of the term, it's the thought that counts? What an ungrateful using piece of shit. Cancer really fits this motherfucker.
Just wait what he says in a much later chapter. You will be amazed at what kind of character CC will turn out to be. And BTW, CC never even told me happy birthday when the day came and I told him when my birthday was.
Well, that confirms it. Why would he use appropriate in the context of other men? He loved you that way. I think that was obvious. I would not marry CC, either. He seems to be dangerous and a cheater. If I found my partner was in a relationship like that and lied, I would leave immediately. He is also immature. Wow. The part with the money is tricky. People tend to be uppity over money because of scams. I heard of fake GoFundMes with real stories used by people who had no relation to victims and scams donors. The people in the YouTube fights probably suspected scams. I think telling him about your girlfriend was pointless. He already knew you had no interest in a relationship. Lying like that did nothing. It certainly did not keep that creep out. I like how you are trying to iron out your problems before getting in fully. Does the rejection still hurt?
This guy is a swinger of the worst kind. I can't believe he is getting into other people's lives like that. What a disgrace. Wow, CancerChaser is a sociopath, throwing a public fit over laughing, asking for money, and getting uppity over a question. This guy is a fucking travesty.
Again, he was treating you like his boyfriend. He is a fucking gay-ass mofo.
Chapter 4 Tilda the mistake that is forgiveness. Going into 2017, I never even cared about CancerChaser. I just wanted to focus on trying to get a job and losing weight. I was passing by the street close to where he lived without realizing it. CC came up to me and started talking to me. I was nervous as I was not prepared to be meeting him. He was asking me about my girlfriend and also about Trump being president. After a few minutes, I told him how nervous I am and he responded with this in a negative tone. Who am I? Count Dracula? After that we went our separate ways. That night he texted me about how much he loved my butt. He is under the impression that I already have a partner and he asks me questions like this? This is just crazy. Even worse, taking into consideration that it is inappropriate for him to send him pictures of people who look like him, but not telling people who are in a relationship with someone else about their butt. Don't send me pics of strangers anymore. That's not appropriate. I did not realize this then, because I did not have access to the old phone until recently, but this is just an insane logic going on with him. It's like he is forcing me into a relationship, but having double standards. But keep in mind, I have forgotten about the pertinent message at that point. Super Bowl 51 was happening, and I was going to a grocery store. On my way, a drunk man came out of the nearby bar and started yelling at me and threatening to beat me up. I fled in fear. Next day I went to Starbucks and had a tire iron concealed in my coat, in the case I get in a confrontation with any violent drunken people. I know that did not make sense, but I was very nervous at that point. On my way back home, CC passed by. He asked if I actually had a girlfriend, because he never saw me with her. I just gave up and confessed because it did not make a difference at that point. He clearly does not care about my relationship at all because he is that creepy. Imagine he did to actual people who are taken or married. He also asked about my concealed weapon that he noticed nobody else did, and I told him the situation with the Super Bowl. Some time later the beggar was near the Walmart I was heading in. The same beggar that CC is also familiar with, who wants money and not food as I found out, and is using it for drugs according to CC's second-hand knowledge. As often I only have money to buy what I want, which was shipping supplies and tape, stuff I need to send out things I sold online. The beggar approached me for money and I told I had nothing. He responded by insulting my weight with profanity. We got into a shouting match and I called him out for what he actually uses his money for. After a minute, I went to Walmart and I don't know where he went or care. Beginning of March I took up a paid job offer where I distributed flyer cards for a convention. On Sunday, I delivered all the flyer cards I had. When I had around 20 left out of several hundreds, I passed by a house of an artist friend. The artist friend is someone I knew since I was a teenager, almost 2 decades. Going to refer to her as AF. CC passed by and started asking me if I could be friends with him on social media again. I told him about how nervous I was about it. He responded with the usual stupid Count Dracula thing from before. He then told me how much he misses me and needed me to send him emails. He also told me how much he wants to be my friend so much. I asked if he would be willing to play video games with me and he accepted that. So I made one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made ever. I feel horrible for making mistakes like this, but he was being very manipulative. I also still had some positive feelings for him left. And as stated in Chapter 2, I am conditioned to forgive everyone regardless whatever they did to me. I did something immensely regrettable. I forgave him once again. I let him back in. I did something I wish I could take back. He is that manipulative. By now, I have no positives feelings anymore, but it took much later for that to happen. I also told him about my recent happening with a junkie beggar from before. Don't remember how he reacted to that, I think mostly because of what happened next. 5. Not long after that, AF came back in, and I talked to her and introduced her to CC and vice versa. I was more at ease to AF than CC and he noticed. After she left, CC asked if my nervous way to speaking to him was exclusive to him. I replied that it was not the case, and that I knew AF for a very long time. I also told him that I am also nervous around people who I knew longer than I knew CC himself. It takes a while for bonds to develop and for anxiety to ease away. An older man should know how long friendships work. Immature of him to act jealous like that. This is the equivalent of acting jealous of someone for treating family with better kindness over them. It is understandable if someone who you knew growing up to get more love than if you only knew them for a few months, or in the case a little over a year. The reason I did not cut it off there is simply because I did not mind it then. I felt more of a misunderstanding then. It's only after I cut CC off for and reflected on these actions is when I finally felt how screwed up this is and how abnormal this is actually. He seems to be so obsessed and envious that he is acting like a jealous partner without the relationship. Exclusive to him? No, it was not. He saw someone with a stronger bond than him, and my easiness with AF was exclusive to her. BTW, AF is married to another and she was adult when we first met. 2. CC saw a bond that was long established and he did not know that. His less warmer feelings were more natural. It takes time to build long-lasting friendships like this. As I stated before, there are many other people who I am still nervous around who I knew longer than CC. And every other time I hear the word exclusive, it sometimes triggers this memory of CC being jealous. Now my day can get ruined simply because of his stupid nonsense he puts me through.
Comments.
He was to be your bestest and only friend. He is such a fucking prickly creep. Fuck him and that beggar, too. And that drunk motherfucker.
Yeah, he clearly saw right through that. Being married would not change that because he is that determined. He seems like a little bit narcissistic, too. What an invasive creep.
Count Dracula. What is that supposed to mean? Count Dracula. WTF. Also, this R does not know his role either. And hitting on people like that is fucking wrong if they tell you they are taken. Potential house wrecker piece of shit.
What a jealous punk ass. He thought he was your best boy even though he only knew you for a year. Chapter 5 A toxic relationship that benefits the perpetrator only.
Trigger warning. Game-ending AK self-deletion references exist in this chapter.
I made a huge mistake in letting CancerChaser become my friend again. I really wish I could take this back very bad now. But I must move on. At a certain point after I made the disastrous decision to rekindle my friendship, CC started sending me pics to forward to his email. Reviewing certain evidence reveals that the earliest incarnation of the emails was March 23, 2017. I cannot describe what the images actually are. I have to leave the reader to the imagination to figure out the contents. I need to be secretive about it for legal reasons. Squared, I will be posting the emails that I still have. The reason I don't have all the emails is for several reasons. I have made 2 more horrifying mistakes on my part. 1. After the next incident, I deleted the emails where I sent the pics to him dating before abusive emails he would soon send me after the incident. There are still paper trails left. 2. I marked his address as spam after the aforementioned incident I mentioned in 1. He automatically deletes emails sent after around 30 days. These mistakes were done because there was a time I really want to ignore him and thought it was a good idea to simply ignore him for a while. I did not anticipate what he would do with information like my phone number or stalking, harassing, abusive behavior that would actually warrant the police. At the time I still thought he would not cross the line. When he became much worse later down the line, I was told to document everything when watching YouTube videos about dealing with harassment. So spam marking became a huge mistake that I regretted. I really wish I had all the evidence now, but some of the evidence is gone just like that. I am providing what I have left. But I still have trace evidence of 2 missteps from a forwarded email dating back from March 23, April 28, 2017, all before May 2017. The email exchanges where I sent him every picture he wanted to forward to his account. I redacted the addresses and the pics themselves, only leaving the fact that pictures were sent. It's interesting that he needs help from someone like me to forward images. I guess his phone is really that outdated. I never knew exactly what phone he uses. I just noticed it did not have a touchscreen. But please note that he needed me to send these photos to his email. There was a time where he even asked me to send that stuff to him and actually called me to make sure I had it sent. It was very important to him because of how out of his way he went to ensure that he received them. I did it all and got nothing in return. Very interesting what he will later say a future email. One weekend, I had something best described as tension between me and certain people in my family. I need to protect my family in this blog because I love them and I need them. We occasionally have disagreements. I am only braining my occasional quarrels with them because some of them tie into CancerChaser. I told CC what was happening to me and my worries of what would happen to me. He told me everything would be okay. Luckily, he was right. But there were times I was punished severely by them, especially as a kid. To further elaborate, some examples are that I permanently lost things by confiscation and had things destroyed in front of me. They have even shifted me out of their home once. CC invited me into his home the next day. I was very emotional that morning. I had strong feelings of anxiety because of the drama with my family. As I was telling CC about my fear and pain, I lost and started screaming about my worries. I had a huge fit of panic and went onto his living room floor. I even talked about taking my own life because of my sad and depressed state. CC comforted me. He calmed me down and made me feel better. This alongside the positive treatment when we first met were the only notable and memorable good things CC has ever done for me. The reason I cannot remember much outside these moments is because of all the bad things CC has done and will be doing, either here or in future chapters. One day, CC sent me a picture for him to send to his email. It took a few days to send because of more family troubles. My emotions in that instance went so deeply negative that I felt that wanted to pass away again. I had to be in a hospital and it took a few days for me to come home to use my phone again to send the message for CC. At the end of April I went to another convention. With a few hours until the convention ended, I had a major accident. I was on my way from a panel to a gathering for a game tournament. I tripped on some rocks and badly injured my right ankle, the other one, not the one I hurt in Chapter 3. I suffered bad sprains on both sides of the right ankle. The pain was intense and it came after 1 minute of numbness. I could not bear weight, either. The ambulance came for me and this time there no incident. The convention was in a different city than where I live, so I saved from the abuse paramedic. There was also police present so I felt safe. When I hurt my ankle, I was convinced that it was broken because I never felt ankle pain this bad. When I arrived at the hospital, I was x-rayed and then they wrapped my ankle in some cast-like wrap. I was told that it was sprained, because no fractures were found in my bones. After that, I was given crutches and I was driven home by family. I need to point out that despite my odd battles with them, my family comes through for me when I am hurt. They also always provide me with needs and took care of me very well whenever I am injured, and the times I injured my ankles were no exception. I love my family very much. The times I had surgery my family was there for me. I went to specialist 2 days after my injury. I was able to get an appointment for that day. They cut my cast wrap and it revealed some gruesome looking dark bruises on my sprained ankle. I was given an air cast and elastic bandage. After being checked out, CC passed by right in front of the doctor's office building. We had a conversation, but I have no recollection aside from my injury. I do not remember if he was concerned or not. CC wanted me to come to his home, but I could not physically. CC's apartment was on the 2nd floor, and there was around 20 tough stairs going up. When I was better condition, one of my knees got sharp pain putting pressure heading up those stairs. Going up and down the stairs with crutches and a bad ankle would be too much for me. So I decided to be nice to him again, other stupid mistake in hindsight. Since I was too injured to go up his stairs, I invited him to my home around a week later. I had stairs to my room in my house, but they were easier on me, and by the time CC came over to my home, my ankle has recovered a little bit. I could hardly walk, but I could put some weight on it for some seconds and was on pain medication often. CC came inside. He made his coffee and we sat on the couch. After a bit of talking, we went to my room. I went a little after him and I went there slowly and carefully because of my hurt leg. We spent most of the time there. At one point, he wanted to be left alone. I gave him a lanyard and he seemed to take only to leave it behind. He never reclaimed it. Leaving this for future reference. 6. I then asked if he wanted to play games with me. He was reluctant, stating that he wasn't in the mood, and said next time or next week. I had to convince him, bringing up how I made him happy and how I did favors for him, telling him to please return the favor. So we started playing. The game was Kirby Superstar. The game from the compilation I chose was Spring Breeze. It is important to note how long this game is. A long play of this is 10 minutes. Speedruns of this game range around 3 minutes. I chose this game because it was short and easy, so even the least experienced game player could have a good time and it would be very quick. He asked how to play and I told him that the introduction on screen literally showed you how to play and I did not skip it for him. After the introduction, we started playing. CC did not do much in the first level. I went through the entire first level with him struggling behind. After the first level was done, I looked at him and he seemed to have held the directional stick around diagonal up plus left and pressing no buttons. He also did next to nothing on the second level. He stopped playing with me after the second boss was beaten halfway through the game. He told me that he was leaving. I told him that we were halfway through and he just me left to finish the game myself. We had an argument about this and he left my home, apparently leaving his hat behind. Seriously, if he wasn't not interested at all, he should have told me instead of feigning interest, putting no effort, and literally leaving halfway through. If I was given a task as a favor I would have put in more of an effort. I would have been grateful if he at least stuck around even if he never did much. I would have been grateful for him actually playing with me if he did not leave. It would have been that simple. Even when he does something for me that I truly wanted, he failed at it. The one thing I was desperate for. After this I just lost hope in my friendship with CC. I felt he was using me and didn't actually care about my happiness. He just found me attractive and wanted me for my body. But he did not really care about me as a person. 2 days afterwards he came over to pick up his hat that he left behind. He let me know a day before. It's a fisherman's hat and it looked like this. He came over again. We went upstairs. I tried to get him to play video games again. He still gave the same tomorrow, pushback decline as always, so I just gave up. Sometime later, he was downstairs. I stayed up because my bad ankle was hurting and I needed to rest it a little until the ibuprofen kicked in. I checked my feet and found an application for another convention for me to apply to. I filled in my application as best as I can and it took around 30 minutes. I need to put this in because it ties in later. So afterwards, I went downstairs carefully, so I don't injure my bad leg. I sat down on the couch and talked to CC for a bit. Somehow we got into another argument. Cannot remember, but I mentioned the cell phone fiasco to him and he responded by saying how long time ago that was. As if he did tons of good things to make me forget about it, which he didn't. Maybe if he did not half-heartedly play and left during Kirby Superstar, I could have possibly let this go. I sent him literally 10 emails of photos to his email and he cannot even get through a 10-minute game for me. The fact that I let him in my home is how generous I am and he exploits it for me and takes me for granted. And he is an older man, mind you. After a while he leaves again, this leaving nothing behind. I would like to mention that CC did not steal anything from my home at all or mess anything up in there. I am happy for that because I had house guests before who did that. Stolen bikes, stolen games, broken chairs, messed up areas, one of the fewest things I can give CC credit for. Few days later, for unrelated reasons, I had another turbulent trifle with family again. It escalated to the point that I was in danger of being ejected from my family home again. I panicked drastically. It got really bad. I started messaging friends about this, including CC. Some of them did not say anything when it went on and later asked if I was okay or if the situation was cooled. Others responded with waiting if the situation cools down. CC seemed to be callous and telling me again that things will be fine. Even the last time I was driven to the hospital. I told CC my worries that I might be homeless and how I felt like wanting to die again. He told me that I was immature and needed to shut the F*** up about it. After a few hours I decided that I was done with CC as a friend. I wrote down a script to tell him what I wished to talk to him about. I planned to dial to go straight to voicemail, because something CC often does is talk over me and I cannot my message across because he never really wants to listen to me. I tried calling but I dialed only his number by accident and he picked up and started talking. I did properly this time and left him the voicemail. I still have the script of what I told him. But he called me back after the first line of the second page. If I can remember when I think that's where it was. CC might have the voicemail itself but I don't. Here is the script of the voice message. He got the first page and at least the first sentence of the second one. I censored out 2 sentences, because it explicitly mentions a method of suicide and I think it is so horrifying in its detail that I must leave it out. I also used profanity in the message itself. I've decided to leave out profanity in these posts for the sake of professionalism. But the link picture do have profanity that I stated, as I was very livid at the time I wrote that. That's it. I'm beeping tired of you. I'm blocking you on social media, your phone number, and your email. I don't want to beeping talk to you in the street, either. I have to send you a voicemail, because this is one of the biggest beeping problems with you. You keep beeping talking over me. And why don't you want to play video games with me? I let you in my home and this is what I get? Next time next week. You sound like my parents. Always pushing plans away. Parents. Always pushing plans away. Why do you think I let you touch me like that? It's because I am desperate for local friends for video games. I'd pay for this if I had the money. You didn't even move on the controller too much. You're really not interested. If I was given a favor to play video games with, I'd put in effort even if I hated video games. I'd do that for friends. Not you because you only think about yourself. And when I feel like killing myself because I am going to be homeless, you call me immature about it? I hate my life and I'm horrible for wanting it to end? How inconsiderate can you be? Censored. Explicit suicide reference. How am I bad for suggesting a phone? I had to use birthday money to replace a broken phone. Those things are expensive. I was not calling you poor. Where did you get that idea? Why did I tell you that I had a girlfriend? Because I didn't want to see you again. I thought you would leave me alone if you got the hint. I don't give a beep anymore. I'm cutting you off my life forever. Goodbye. When he called me, I told him how done I am with him and I never wanted to be friends with him again. Although, we did get into a shouting match over the phone. I don't remember what was said by him. I hung up and blocked his phone. I went into a blocking spree on social media and email. I thought if I marked it as spam, he would say whatever he wanted and I could ignore it. This would later cost me a ton. I also deleted emails, which also was a bad idea, too. But keep in mind, I had no idea what he would do weeks later. After that, I turned off my phone because quite frankly I did not want to break it again. Looking back a few days after, I certainly don't feel that way now for CC. He deserves all my rage. I felt horrible being mean to CC. I really don't like being mean to people. I wish to be the nicest I can possible. But CC exploited me. He asked me tons of favors and I consented to let him hug me. But he could not be bothered to play games with me and when he does he quits halfway through. And all his overblown temper tantrums directed at me for very minor slights perceived at his end, such as the phone situation and the laughing situation. And keep in mind, the friendship started when he went out of his way to approach me and reached out to me. Not the other way around. He came to me. So I had to be the bad guy for my own sake. I needed to get rid of people like him. It was for my own good. Hours after my phone call, my family started making arrangements to get out of the home. They were researching programs to have me live somewhere. Maybe a group home or something. The next day they seemed to be calm and changed their mind. We came into an understanding and I apologized for what I did. Things did go back to normal, but the day before I had no idea. Also, my family never researched group homes before. This was the first. One thing that happened a few days after my injury is that I got accepted to work a gig job. I got some weird emails and even asked my friends, including CC, what certain words meant. Last call, if you are wondering. When I applied I was in good condition. So when I got accepted, I was injured. I was hoping I could heal enough to be able to work. I had an MRI done to see how my ligaments were in my injured ankle. I had to use the library to print the paperwork out afterwards. I checked my email and CC had sent me an email and it somehow went through my main folder for some reason. This is the email I got. The message at the bottom is what he said and the message at the top is my response. Again, we both use profanity. You have some nerve treating me like that and leaving that voicemail. I wasn't a friend to you? I didn't listen to you rant and rave every time you wanted to kill yourself? Remember when you threw yourself onto my living room floor, screaming like a little beep? Remember that? You are an ungrateful person and you don't deserve my time. He was friend to me. I loved how he went out of his way to talk to me and was there for me, once. But notice that it was past tense. Was. Yes, he did listen to my ravings. But so did others. He was acting as if he was the only friend I had who did this with. He was one of multiple people I shared my grievances with. He even met one of my friends in person, too. But also, these friends helped more than CC. They have played games with me, too, when they had the time. I would have not needed help from CC if they still had the same amount of free time they have now. And with the exception of Jay, they also don't attack me for trivial reasons like CC does, especially not with the crazy level of sensitivity and insecurity CC goes after me for. And I threw myself with others too, especially after the crap he puts me through much later. He was the ally in a past drama, and later he becomes a massive problem. I did the same thing he described with the floor, with another friend from the horrible invasive crap CC hurts me with. Specifically the harassment. CC acts as if he is the special, unique, amazing friend, and has no self-awareness whatsoever. Ungrateful person, and you don't deserve my time. This one is funny, especially considering what he does in the next chapter. So I sent a reply to him with this. Good riddance. Don't ever beeping talk to me again to my face. I don't ever want to see you anymore. He sent me something else as a reply and I deleted it. I also moved the email into the spam folder. It was later forwarded for preservation. I did a lot of the paperwork for my next job. I needed to get a new ID. I went to the DMV, and after I got everything straightened out, I sat in the park for a little while and the beggar junkie from before came up to me. Apparently he forgot about our last argument and asked me for money again. I turned him down and hobbled away. I later found that my ankle ligaments were good from the results of the MRI, which was days away from my first working day. A day before that day started, I was able to walk again.
Comments.
What kind of broke dinosaur needs their pics sent to their email? I never needed to do that. He also never played video games and likes RPC and pretends to like them. I think he dropped his hat on purpose, abandoned it, and claimed it as an accident. He stayed the other day. He also cannot handle sensitive situations. Should have not let him in on it. What you said was all right. But your handwriting is shit. Why did you put in the suicide thing though? Ungrateful. Hypocritical projection at its finest.
Clearly he did not truly love you. Sorry that he left you halfway through. What a cruel man he is. But please seek help for your depression issues. You don't deserve to die.
I sympathize with you greatly. Both physically and mentally. I had moments of suicidal ideation, too. I also had injuries on my legs, too. I had broken a foot and both ankles in some different cases. As for CancerChaser, fuck him. Seriously. He cannot even play video games, either. He only wants sex. Nothing else. He asks for favor after favor, but cannot hold his own side of the bargain. He can go straight to fucking hell.
You relayed emails to him when he needed them. You let him into your house when you couldn't come because you were hurt. And yet, he was inconsiderate to your feelings. He harassed you through email. Worst of all, refused your video game favors and did not want to play Spring Breeze with you and left halfway after you convinced him? This guy is the fucking Antichrist scum of the earth. He needs to be nobody's friend. He deserves no friends. He is an abusing monster of a person. He deserves all hate he gets. Spring Breeze is one of the shortest games in existence. It's literally the original Kirby's Dream Land missing one level. And this CancerChaser cannot be bothered to play more than 2 levels and only use the control pad. He needs to be chilling with the dark matter and deep space.
Why did you bring him to your crib? You don't deserve it. Shit. Should have told to wait his queer ass until you heal up. He don't deserve shit.
Trigger warning. Game-ending AK self-deletion references exist in this chapter.
Chapter 6 Tilda using another phone for manipulation. My first day of work at convention was good. We went into a room and managed it. Not many people were there. So we just stayed around and talked. 2 hours and I went to the break room. On my way back I started having minor pain in my injured ankle. I could still walk but had to walk slowly and carefully so I don't injure myself. When I got back I told my supervisor that my right foot was sore. Not much happened after that really. I did not want to tell him that I was recovering from an injury. On the last 2 hours I was moved into another room, where some people were recording a podcast. I cannot remember the name of their show and I don't think I can find out about their show unless I spend a day's worth of researching and backtracking to find their name again. That is not even important right now. I am mentioning all of this simply to show what was going through my head. just to show how mentally prepared I was for what is coming next. I was very preoccupied with my work and my health, so I had no idea to really process what would happen next. On 7:26 p.m., I get a phone call from a number I don't recognize. It was CancerChaser. This completely caught me off guard. The man weeks ago telling me that I don't deserve his time is calling my number with a different one. I really never saw this coming. I lashed out at him and told him not to talk to me again, and he still does it. He is that unpredictable. He tells me to unblock his number and that he needed for me to send him some more stuff. He also tells me that he did not want our friendship to end this way and something else along the lines of how he loved me. I replied that I felt exploited by him. He asked why, and I reiterated how he does not reciprocate the favors due for him. He talks about how he was there for me when I felt very sad, despite not being the only one. The entire phone call was him asking for favors and manipulating my feelings and loneliness that I felt. After it was over, I contemplated what to do. I thought about why he called with another number. Was it him being a creepy harasser and evading my block, or him going out of his way to be nice to me despite our altercations as he hinted at? I seriously had no idea how to handle this situation, and I was unprepared for something like this. I did suspect he was manipulating me. I did suspect that he was just saying anything just to get in my good graces. However, before CC, I am used to having mutual non-speaking terms. If someone does not like me, I don't speak to them and they don't speak to me. And given that CC's last communication with me was turbulent, I thought that he would never speak to me again. Especially with a "don't deserve my time" quote. So, of course I would not expect him to evade my number block and call me with a different phone in these circumstances. After 16 minutes of contemplating, I made one of the worst decisions I could possibly make it in this situation. I decided to give him one last chance. I really regret this decision deeply. I decided on trusting him despite everything he put me through. The best way I can describe why I made this horrendous decision is that I still had a small glimmer of friendly feelings. And I think he was able to tap into that. To add to that, he talked about a big game of valuing our friendship together and not wanting it to end that way. Doing this despite our falling out made me feel as if he was that tolerant of my negative feelings. It really seemed like CC was a real friend, and I felt convinced of it. After all, I was lonely. I could not find people to play games with. And he knew that. So if it's very apparent right now that he used me this way, he manipulated my feelings that way with his portrayal of a loyal ally and someone who would stick with me despite outfights. Fortunately, it will not work anymore, given what he does later has destroyed all remaining positive and neutral feelings for him. He could no longer try to manipulate me anymore. So I made one of the worst decisions I could possibly make in this situation. I called him back on 7:44 p.m. I did not tell him it was his last chance, because he has feelings with the durability of paper. I did tell him I was an emotional wreck, and that I was going to unblock his number, also told him that I was unsure about it. So I went and shot myself in the foot by unblocking his number and letting him back because of his manipulation. On 10:38 p.m., almost 3 hours later, he called me with the same alternative number, while I was on the bus home, to confirm if I unblocked his main number and did his errand of sending him a picture he attached. I told him that I did unblock him and that I will send his picture when I get home. I sent the pic right before midnight. I was very wiped out by then, so I barely got around it. The next day I sent him another email with a picture he wanted me to send. As of today, I will never unblock people anymore after I blocked unless there is an exceptional reason for it. And if it's because the other person is sorry, then that will never be valid. And CC's intrusive actions are why I am being more adamant. He literally made me have to bear more security like that. The rest of the con went smoothly. I made a few connections there. I also played video games with others after my shifts were done. It was very fun experience, Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, and Super Mario Maker if you are wondering. On Sunday, Memorial Day, I did not go to the con because my shifts on Sunday got cancelled and my family had a barbecue, so I stayed home. Sometime during the afternoon, CC passed my home suddenly. I noticed him and went up to him. I asked if he could join me in the barbecue and he refused. He asked if we are still friends and I replied yes. The rest of the day was good. I went back to the con for the final day, Monday. I did aggravate my injured ankle. I went around the dealer's room and did a challenge for a prize. I decided to do the jumping challenge to jump as high as I can. I forgot how I was still in recovery and went through with it. I landed fine with both feet touching the floor, but the weight and impact of the landing hurt my injured ankle. I started grabbing it and the people at the booth asked if I was okay. I replied yes and went on my way. After some rounds of playing Mario Maker and Smash, my ankle started hurting again. I got worried. I thought about going to the hospital again, but decided against it. After I left the con, I bought a leaf for the pain. On my way home I got some stupid text message from CC about what I did was projecting my anger onto him. As if he did not do that himself to me, too. The irony is just amazing here. And it does not end here. Ampersand, a friend of mine suggested if I wanted CC to play with me, to pick a simple game with very little interaction needed. I will note this friend as H like where our touched. For example, I had that on my 3DS. H suggested that I go with that. So the next I saw CC in his home, I suggested we played that. He refused me just like before, saying that he did not want to do it right now, maybe another day. He knew I desperately wanted someone to play games with, yet he hardly ever carries through with what I want. He had stated many times, like when we first met to even the time he called with another phone, that he would, but when it came time for it, he would always did it and only once was I successful. At that point, I just gave up on him ever playing games with me ever again. I still kept CC as a friend, thinking it would eventually get better. It never did. CC's birthday came to pass again. I asked what is his favorite cake. He told me it was funfetti. I made 2 loaves of it. One for me to eat and the other for him. I went to his home to give it to him. He accepted. Never knew what he did with it. I am assuming he ate it. Making a note of it right now for future reference. After that, not much happened between us. I did not do much with him moving forward. In fact, my mind was much more occupied with Pokemon Go, as legendary Pokemon started to appear in gym raids. And before then I participated in a charity live stream, too. I won a prize during that live stream. I even started having some panels in future conventions, too. Panels I came up with based on a few I have been in. Interaction between me and CC was just me sending CC more pics throughout this time. Anytime I did see him, I was distant to him and just let him walk away. A few times he did see me and greeted me, I greeted back. My ankle did heal several weeks after the con I was working. I say healed as in I can still walk, the pain is absent for most circumstances, and there is no swelling. Both ankles start hurting when I stand for very long periods of time, 5 hours, or when seasonal climate changes to or from cold. The rest of the summer the internet interactions happened at these dates as follows: all 2017, that are relatively irrelevant, June 14th, June 17th, July 3rd, July 7th, July 28th, August 10th, and August 24th. Note, I did send CC a pic of how I used to look like, maybe related to weight loss or something. I was around 500 pounds in the pic I used to look like. Mid-August I ran my first of 2 panels. The panel is about Super Mario Maker, and I would use an audience to create a level. I was inspired by several other panels I have attended. This is to set up context. Fast forward to September. I had another crisis within the family involving me. Luckily it was not as bad as last time, but it did involve an argument between me and some family members. I felt very depressed after the arguments ended. I felt like wanting to end my life again. I sent several of my friends some pictures of how I was feeling. One was a bottle pail in another arm with a certain eating utensil next to it. CC was one of the recipients of the picture. Another was HH went to my home to see me because of it. He checked up on me to see if I was alright. I told him about what happened and he told me that I needed more time to spend with friends. So he bonded with me that day. We played video games together co-op, the very thing I wanted from CC. H did willingly and fully. CC did half of a 10-minute game. H did full hours of gaming. We played Kirby Superstar, Brawl Brothers, and finished it with Super Smash Brothers for Wii U. Afterwards, we went to eat. I told him I sent the same pics to others and he told me that it was a huge mistake on my part and that anyone can call the hospital to transfer me to a mental facility. He told me about an incident where a cousin of felt depressed and told one person that she felt suicidal. Said person who heard called 911 and the one who felt suicidal stayed in a mental hospital for 2 weeks. H then suggested that I tell everyone else who got the pictures that I am doing it for attention to save face, so if they call the hospital on me, I can save myself from being committed. Given that the next week, I had to do a panel for another convention, I did that. I told them I did for attention to everyone who received the picture, including CC. CC was the only person who responded and it was something along the lines of yeah, that is what I thought. In hindsight, this was really stupid for me to do this. Just because I felt horrible does not mean I should have acted in this manner. Why did I include this situation here? Because I need to be as transparent as I can here. If I left it out, it might be used against me, so I needed to have it included in. Reading through the emails and the evidence I have, I would have no excuse to exclude this. I reached out about the situation to the other parties involved to provide context. Only 2 other people, besides H and CC, even remember, and I sent to 7 people. 1 person got both the pictures and cover up together. He thought it was incredibly stupid for me to be doing this at the time. After telling him the entire context and background, he replied with everything about what did with the pics was unnecessary and poorly thought out. To never even think about pulling something like that again. The other person saw at the time and was interested in the outcome. When he received the message, he sighed and did not really care. Nothing changed after I told him the background and context. After that, I was preparing for the panel. I was going back and forth with the panel organizer. His first name is the same as CC's first name, so some confusion happened. CC asked me to send his pictures to his email and I apparently thought I sent it to the panel organizer instead of CC, because they shared the same name. Then, I sent them to CC and apologized to both of them. I had an extensive back and forth with the panel organizer, and at the same time I got messages from CC about what would be needed in alternative programming, so I thought I messed up. I recently contacted said panel organizer and he claimed he never received pics from me. After checking the email confirms I never actually sent any pictures to such organizer who had the same name as I guess for some reason I thought I sent it to him because of name matching. And now as I am writing this mistake did not exist and I sent CC's pictures to him and nobody else. The con was a success. It was a 2-day con. First day was the panel and it went well. Some of my family was in attendance, and so was H. The second day, I played retro video games, some with H and another friend.
Comments.
I am speechless. This guy is just fucking unbelievable. Confirmed creeper WTF. I'd go fund my restraining order if I were you.
You should have never accepted his amends or unblocked his number. It would been better if you reported to the cops. Especially if he disrespects like that. And it's clear that he is bad and treacherous liar. Not only that but seems to go out of the earth to talk to you. But I am happy you found an actual willing friend and not some like CancerChaser. Good for you. Keep finding more real friends. I had someone else come back over and over for extra chances and taking advantage of my kindness. You are not alone. Also CC did not want to play even where our shows his real intentions. What a complete scum piece of shit. The other friends who came to you are your real friends. Not this CancerChaser cunt. He also deserves no birthday presents either. He deserves to be homeless. Are you gonna keep letting him in like that? Fuck him. He might fucking rape you or something shit.
Holy fucking shit, he has no life. And once again he proves himself to be a leech. CancerFucker does not know how to fuck off. You would think he would learn something or to, but no. And he never learns. I guess he needs to be broken for him to learn something, or he is not mentally handicapped. I never knew a gay guy so immensely fucked up in the head and creepy.
I am the H man in this chapter and have posted my testimony of this situation. Link to the video in the description.
Trigger warning. Game-ending AK self-deletion references exist in this chapter.
Chapter 7 tilde the last straw. Before I continue, I must address a minor mix-up. Last chapter, I introduced a friend who helped me out who I dubbed H. However, back in chapter 3, I introduced two people involved in an internet drama against each other, and one of them was Box Bracket H. H is not Box Bracket H. They are not the same person. H is someone I knew for many years. Box Bracket H is someone I never met. Also, Box Bracket H passed away a year ago, and I can confirm that H still is alive. I also must note that Box Bracket H passed away weeks before H came to my home to console me for my mental breakdown. I dubbed my friend H and simply forgot that I used the same letter before with box brackets around it.
And I am the H friend, and I am the one making the video adaptation, and can confirm I am still alive. Condolences to Box Bracket H's friends and family.
The first 6 chapters was the greater context of my telling of what happened between me and CancerChaser, and it has been building up to this. Initially, he invaded my life by reaching out to me and making me feel special with positive affection. I accepted his flattery, not knowing I was being deceived by him. I was on and off with CC. I gave him many additional chances. I tried being nice to him, hoping he would reciprocate, but that never came through. And here I will reveal what finally drove me to finally end my connections with CancerChaser for good. I will be getting into more of the circumstances around the issue, but it is important to understand the context around it, so I need to give the full picture of the entire issue. First, I will bring attention to a small part of Chapter 5, where CC was in my home, second instance, and I was upstairs filling out an work application for a convention. 2 months later, I received an email where I got accepted to work there. It was New York Comic Con 2017, and what I applied for was to be part of the crew. It was a paid job and I had to submit documentation. I will elaborate on that soon. Being part of working NYCC meant being able to attend all days of the convention. Since 2014, New York Comic Con tickets, except for Thursday, have sold out in hours. They even stopped having 3- and 4-day passes in 2017. And tickets were very expensive for a single day, around $60 per day. I was only able to buy Friday and Saturday that year, and I had those bought already when I applied for crew. I had to wait the queue for buying tickets for around 30 minutes. But the most important reason for applying for crew was to, hopefully, gain a paid job and connections, something I desperately needed to be able to work on providing for my own and take the necessary steps to move out on my own and pay for myself. I had to do tons of paperwork to be able to qualify to work there. Like the previous con I talked about here, I had to update more of my documents. I had to send papers back and forth. I even needed help from family to figure out how to fill out tax exemptions. There was more papers than the previous con I worked for. I also was trying to meet up with connections as well. Connections that could possibly help me with employment. And they were going to be available in the area around New York Comic Con. But only the days leading to NYCC they would be locally available to me. So I had to work diligently to find when I can meet with them at their earliest convenience. Many of the days, around 2 weeks, leading up to NYCC, which took place October 4th to 7th, were already claimed by the middle of September by either NYCC, October 4th to 7th, and the 3rd for the orientation. Meeting connections I contacted, September 25th, October 2nd, or something else I will be talking about now. The Super NES Classic was also launching around that time as well. September 29th to be exact. I first learned about it in the live stream I watched in that summer I mentioned last chapter. Hearing about these news, I checked Google and got the confirmation. I was very excited for these news, and I needed to get one for myself. I grew up with a real Super NES and had very strong fond memories with it when I was very young. I felt that I needed to get it when it comes out, not just because of the excitement, but also because of the availability issues of the predecessor, the NES Classic. The NES Classic was initially released in November 11th, and it was sold out very quickly when it came out. Scalpers started capitalizing on this and purchased as many as possible to resell for at least double the price for profit. And due to scalpers, the NES Classic kept getting sold out each time it restocked. For some reason, Nintendo decided to discontinue the NES Classic for unknown confirmed reasons. This set the tone for the Super NES Classic, and many people including myself have worried that the same scenario would play out for the Super NES Classic, and that the only way I would be able to get one after day one would be to pay scalper prices for them. I initially even wanted to buy the NES Classic, but because of unforeseen budget problems, I had to pass on it in favor for Pokemon Sun and Moon. And I was shocked to see the NES Classic get discontinued. This is why I felt I had to take care of this potential problem, so I can have my Super NES Classic without having the same situation with the NES Classic. Even though both the NES Classic and Super NES Classic are currently well in stock today, there is no way to know that what happened during September 2017. I would also point out that NYCC tickets were also scalped, too. Mainly multi-day and all non-Thursday passes were often scalped right after being sold out. In many places, especially popular cities like New York City, there is a culture of getting early in line to capitalize on events. This happens all the time, especially in NYC. I've seen it many times, in NYCC and even in Rockefeller Center. And getting there early is very crucial to do to make sure you get in an event, get a signing form, a celebrity, any item that is distributed for free, or anything else like that. There have been times where even getting in on time for the event is not enough. One day, I've arrived for Charles Martinet, voice actor of Mario, autograph signing when wristbands for that were about to be scheduled for distribution, and not only did I not get a wristband because they ran out, but the event ended and I was the fifth person after the last person and had to see it end in front of me. This is why I had to arrive as early as possible to buy the Super NES Classic. As the days for the scheduled days got nearer, news of the Super NES Classic release got even more interesting. The Nintendo New York store release of the Super NES Classic had its own party. I often get Nintendo games, if I can, on launch day in this store, because they often have the best purchase bonuses. And the NES Classic also had its own party as well. But unlike the NES Classic party, where the first 250 people can get in, the Super NES Classic party was limited to 150 people. And all 250 wristbands ran out in about 45 minutes. This put a ton of stress on my mind. Not only did I have to deal with the stress of dealing with the upcoming NYCC job along with connection meetups, but also try and make sure I can attend this party to secure my Super NES Classic. I had to cancel a connection meetup to make room for this. Specifically September 28th. If it took around 45 minutes for 250 wristbands to be claimed, then 150 would be gone in less than 30 minutes easily. I had to be among the first 150. I could not take any chances here. I needed to secure the console I wanted. So I needed to camp out early if I wanted to succeed. For reference, I created a separate Tumblr post to show an entire timeline in the form of a list of links in regards to the NES and Super NES Classic sellouts that happened. All of this for the context that supports the importance of the Super NES Classic. Click and scroll to see what kind of supply issue we had to deal with as consumers and what we had to expect.
When I first got the tweet of the wristbands given out early, I messaged the person who was in front of me in line to come back for the wristbands because he was away momentarily. Here is the message. Needed to crop out identifying information. Also note that Twitter's time when logged off is default Pacific Standard Time, and my default is Eastern Standard Time. There was even a huge issue in the line for the Super NES Classic Party. A bunch of people started cutting in line several feet behind me, I think. I think this video explains the situation very well.
Oh my god, Jacob, explain what happened. Boing. Okay, so I was around 50th in line, and about 10 to 20 spots behind me, just a bunch of people just cut the line as soon as they started giving out the wristbands. So after it got me 10 down, there was just yelling and all this stuff, and the managers giving out the wristbands were just like, no, can't do this anymore. We don't know who's supposed to be in line. And so they just went back into the store, and it was hectic. And I just left the situation to, I didn't want to be a part of that.
At this point, managers are inside. They can't hand out any more wristbands. They don't know what is happening. A whole group of angry people, some that cut the line, some that didn't, all swarm in right into the Nintendo store, right there. They're right in that area when you walk in. They literally start to surround the two managers. It's getting a little hostile. We can hear yelling and arguing from inside. Eventually, one police officer shows up, tries to simmer it down. Everyone's demanding for a wristband at this point. A few minutes after that, we get about 5 or 6 other cops that go in there, and they tell everyone, you have to leave. You have to get out of the store. Unless you're a legitimate customer, you have to get out of the store. Now, the police and a few of the managers come out of the store, and they tell everyone online that we have to clear it out. It's become unsafe. They can't do it anymore. So everyone all the way down the block that got a wristband or not had to leave. They did end up handing out all 150 of the wristbands eventually, but it took a while to do so.
To summarize, this is what was going on in the background of my life. I was hired to work New York Comic Con 2017 as crew and had to fill out extensive paperwork. I had to attend an orientation and work for 4 days after that. October 4th to 8th. I had to take initiative and seek employment opportunities to better my life, and that took up many days around the above. 24th-27th of September. September 30th-October 3rd, I had to secure the Super NES Classic before it sold out and in the face of a potential discontinue at the time, which meant even more days occupied. September 28th to 29th. All of this happened in the 2 weeks time span. And in this time frame is when I had to deal with the following incident regarding CancerChaser, which is the most egregious of all. 8. One day during this period of time, CancerChaser told me that his roommate was gone and asked if I could come to his house. I told him that I cannot because I was busy with work. On September 26th, I was on my way to buy cardboard. He found me outright in person and asked me again if I could come to his house, or if he could come to mine. I replied once again that I cannot because of work, but he interrupted me before I could elaborate. He then talks over me and asks this. So you don't like me anymore? Is that it? At that point, I had enough of his selfishness and lost all patience with him. I just told him something like alright fine, and stormed off. In all of the time I spent bonding with him, I gave him multiple chances hoping things would get better. I had hope for him. I thought despite our differences, he could be amazing to me, but after disregarding employment, I could not take it anymore. CC was getting in the way of me making money, solely for the sake of his own pleasure, and had no regard for my needs. I cannot have people like him as a friend, because I felt he was actively trying to prevent me from what I needed to do. I could not take any more of him and had to cut him off for good. He is no friend if he acts this way when I need to do actual work, and he cannot accept that. Friends do not prevent friends from working real legit paid jobs. CC crossed the line by attempting to pressure me out of it. It was either going forward for my professional opportunities for employment to better my life among other things without CC, or keeping a useless friend at the cost of important matters. CC or jobs. I chose jobs. I never regretted this decision, even after what happens next chapter. Yes, he actually does things afterwards. Pretty awful. Specifically bullying and harassing me. After I got home, I typed out some angry texts at him telling him what I really thought of him and once again cutting ties with him, this time permanently. And I meant it more than ever. This is what I sent him. Please never talk to me again. It's very clear you don't care about me being busy. You don't trust yet keep talking to me. Horrible excuse of a friend you are. You are bad to my mental health. I try very hard not to offend you, but it happens anyway. You keep trying to talk to me, but never show any concern for me, just you. How selfish. I show you so many warning signs of me being sad and wanting to kill myself and you don't seem to care. You don't actually care about me, just my body, not me as a person. Whatever. You need professional help and I sure hope that your family sees that you receive it. Good luck. His reply was some stupid crap about me needing professional help. Professional help does cost money. And I need to work for it. Work is what CancerChaser was preventing me to do because his convenient time was already claimed well ahead of time and he only cared for himself and never considered what I had to do. How delusional can he be? This man is in fact near quadragenarian in age. He appears to look as if he has children of his own or at least has many jobs under his belt. Nobody in their right mind would think he is minor. He is older than not just me, but my eldest sibling. How does he not know the importance of a paid job? And yes, he has worked. He told me he had a job when he was lambasting me over a smartphone. And I can confirm he has a LinkedIn page with at least one job where he worked for many years. He should know better. This is what I had to deal with. I reiterate. I am younger than him, to the extent that I entered his age range as he is exiting it. And even I know the importance of paid employment, while this much older man is acting like a child using antics I grew out of as a teenager. Ironically, him angrily asking him if I did not like him anymore, made me finally stop liking him the moment he said that. I could have tried to compromise and agreed on a date to see him. If he was a little more understanding and less abrasive, I could have picked out a day for him. I would have tried to accommodate him. One of the days cancelled the day after CC's boisterous selfish actions, September 30th, so I would have set aside a day to see him. But of course, he was being audacious and inconsiderate. How can you have an agreement with someone who is this emotional when he is not getting what he wants? Talking over me, being abusive, and not wanting to hear any truth that hurts him. He wanted me and he never cared if I had any obligations. And also I did him multiple favors and came through for him up until that day. Yet he hardly did any favors I asked for him. I asked him multiple times to play games with me. That is all I wanted from him and he only did it once out of multiple asks. And he did not even finish that, and it was one of the most easiest games ever. I had reached out to him and he was hardly considerate to me. He does next to nothing for me, but I always come through for him very often when possible. But the moment that I cannot, this is how I get treated. And also, I could have shown him emails of my job for proof. All he had to do was ask. He wasn't even bothered to do that. I had to turn him down and get rid of him. I had no other choice. There's no way I would choose to waste opportunities on him. And he often wanted me very badly, but I did not really need him all that much aside from a second player, which I just gave up on him after he kept using excuses to get out of it. I was more useful to him than he was to me. But when an opportunity came to me that was very useful to me, it is logical I chose the beneficial option over a useless leech of person who asks endlessly and gives very little back. And when he could not handle that, it became much more obvious that he was being a manipulative user and abuser. It is from the situation that I finally truly learned CancerChaser for what he truly was. I had faith in him until he revealed himself as an immensely the selfish narcissist exploitive monster. Not to mention, I owed him nothing. I don't work for him or under no contract from him. And finally he does not live with me or pays my bills or anything. I am under no obligation from him. And finally, I am going to provide proof to show that I actually did work NYCC and actually was part of the Super NES Classic lunch line.
comments.
Did not expect that. I guess it took that kind of ridiculousness and self-centered and wanting your body at the cost of your livelihood to finally cut him off. He is even worse and more delusional than I can imagine. All he cared was sex and nothing else. I think he is so deep in his lust that it screwed up his mind. What kind of compassionless man-child do you have to be to cost people money for pleasure? And you're right, he is too old to be this way. And you say he harasses you later? Yeah, he is just sickening. I want to smash nobody like that. Irresponsibility to this extent is a massive turnoff for me. This guy acts just like Onision from YouTube. If you don't know, Onision is this manipulative sociopath on YouTube who makes bad videos, but more importantly has an extensive abuse history with at least 3 women, and he abused them badly. Here is sample what the Onision relationship is like. He also recorded her when she lost her memory. And monetized the video, too. But the mostly relevantly part of Onision in relation to this is that he forced a wife he had to quit her job. Which is what CancerChaser was trying to do for his gain. Good job on kicking him to the curb and sending him that epic ownage of messages. Fuck that fucking sociopath. Yeah, I think he did not want you to succeed and suck his dick instead. What a fucking selfish fuck. Wow. CancerChaser truly lives up to his name. He is and acts just like cancer. And I mean it. He tried to get someone to quit their job. Just for sex. Their job. J.O.B. This means they were actively trying to take their means of making money away. Before they started work. This is just like how cancer diseases destroy cells. This man is literal human cancer. Not to mention that is also what Onision actually did. This CancerChaser guy is a fucking inhumane fucking scum. Manipulating people out their jobs with emotional guilt-tripping shit like so you don't like me anymore? Fuck CancerChaser to the ends of the earth.
I knew he was a shitty person, but had no idea he would be on this level of sociopathy. No way in hell anyone would stick with this kind of scum. Literally costing someone money through blocking the means of making money. Fuck CancerChaser. Seriously. This man is truly a piece of shit.
You weren't kidding. He is really this full of himself. He must have no friends unless he has really stupid people. No offense, though, you did get off easy considering if he was not this stupid, he would still take advantage of you. You had to deal with a selfish idiot. That being said, fuck him.
I have no words. Yeah, you're 100% right and justified here. Cannot be wrong. Is this guy really that old? The only way to justify himself without making him look like the unsympathetic porta-potty he is looking like right now is if he was in fact a little child or mentally handicapped. And even then he would make himself look like a horrible bratty kid who needs to be taught a lesson or be in a mental institution forever. Other than that, fuck this scumbag, group of exclamation marks. I am honestly asking because if CancerChaser does not fall into either category, then the man is a malicious resource-eating monster who is trying to get what he wants at the cost of anything, and that is fucking reprehensible. TLDR, this CancerChaser person tried to cost someone their job by guilt-tripping and manipulating his target. Seriously, if he is not a rich person or a young child, this person is an inhuman piece of shit scumbag. Look. Actual human cancer.
Background check gives his age and his education. The college he went to gives out the subject of what he studied there. He actually has functional mind. And I have seen him in person and he wanted sex with me. Not a chance he is underage, and very unlikely he is mentally handicapped. I know. If he was any smarter, it would have been possibly catastrophic for me.
Good call on cutting him out. I know it was easy, but you still deserve to be commended because what was done is morally right.
Chapter 8 Tilde Harassment and the Reveal of True Colors. Before I get into the harassment that CancerChaser committed after I cut him off for good, I need to mention the conclusions of the Super NES launch party and New York Comic Con 2017, the event surrounding the incident where CC was trying to get me to leave my job for the purposes of getting me into his home without trying to compromise or ask for proof. Proof which I provided at the end of the chapter. The Super NES launch turned out good for me. I left the night before the wristband distribution to secure my place in line. I was around tilde 50-60 place in line. I actually tried to sleep in the line but failed. Had a bunch of naps but I actually got insomnia. 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, the store put out a tweet that the wristbands were going to distribute it early, 2:15 Eastern Standard Time to be exact. When I saw this tweet, someone in front of me went away and I had to message him to come back ASAP. He did return fortunately. Both of us did get wristbands, but around 5 people behind us. There were people cutting the line there. Wristbands were abruptly ended there. The store put out a tweet that they ran out. The commotion over the wristbands was very huge to the point that police was called. I was told by the people from the store to leave the area for safety concerns. I went to the nearby Starbucks. The situation did resolve itself. Everything about the situation with the wristbands is covered here.
Oh my god, Jacob, explain what happened.
Boing. Okay, so I was around 50th in line, and about 10 to 20 spots behind me, just a bunch of people just cut the line as soon as they started giving out the wristbands. So after it got me 10 down, there was just yelling and all this stuff, and the managers giving out the wristbands were just like, no, can't do this anymore. We don't know who's supposed to be in line. And so they just went back into the store, and it was hectic. And I just left the situation to, I didn't want to be a part of that.
At this point, managers are inside. They can't hand out any more wristbands. They don't know what is happening. A whole group of angry people, some that cut the line, some that didn't, all swarm in right into the Nintendo store, right there. They're right in that area when you walk in. They literally start to surround the 2 managers. It's getting a little hostile. We can hear yelling and arguing from inside. Eventually, one police officer shows up, tries to simmer it down. Everyone's demanding for a wristband at this point. A few minutes after that, we get about 5 or 6 other cops that go in there and they tell everyone, you have to leave. You have to get out of the store. Unless you're a legitimate customer, you have to get out of the store. Now, the police and a few of the managers come out of the store and they tell everyone online that you have to clear it out. It's become unsafe. They can't do it anymore. So everyone all the way down the block that got a wristband or not had to leave. They did end up handing out all 150 of the wristbands eventually, but it took a while to do so.
The rest of the night went well. I had fun at the party, and I was able to purchase my Super NES Classic at midnight. Played for 30 minutes in home, and fell asleep after 30 minutes. As for the connections, it did not amount to very much initially. I did get some help with some more volunteer employment and a short paid gig. I did get invited to some Facebook groups. The meetups were okay, a few seminars, one of which was in regards to selling on Amazon. I worked at a TV festival that I received a job opportunity at one of those connection meetups. Even though I did came up empty-handed, I did get a few more jobs on my resume. And given that I got hired very recently, I think those meetups were very handy. So in the long run, it was worth it. I attended the crew orientation of NYCC 2017 and received shirts in my bench. There was traffic and I checked my phone and found that CancerChaser called me earlier, but I did not receive the call because I blocked him shortly after I cut ties with him. Here is a screen cap of it. Notice that there is a blue no symbol next to it, compared to the others that have none. This is one instance of the harassment after our most recent falling out. It will get worse later. New York Comic Con 2017 was amazing for me. Met some new friends and many cosplayers that were amazing. I only had some hours to enjoy the convention, but they were good. Most of my time was spent working. I was able to meet a celebrity who played a character I loved as a child. His photo was expensive and it took days for me to think it over, but I went with it because I felt he was worth. I think it took so long because I did not know his price. Once did, it took the next day for me to get the selfie. First day of working was great, but I was immensely nervous. I managed a room filled with parents with their kids. The next day I looked over another room with fellow coworkers. The next 2 days I did photo ops. I scanned photo ops of attendees so they can get their digital versions of the photos they took with their respective celebrities. I found this con to be very enjoyable overall, but my anxiety stayed consistently high. However, hours after the convention was over, my phone kept shutting down randomly. The battery was inconsistent. A few days later, it would jump from charging at 50% to sudden 100%. then dropped to 67% a minute later. Another instance is when I had a portable charger charging and I actually saw the battery decrease in real time by the second. Eventually, my phone stopped working effectively. It would turn off right after a full charge and display 0 or 50%. It was that inconsistent, unstable, and unusable. So my phone broke again. This time it was different. When I broke my phone last time, it was due to impact damage. After that, I took better care of my phone, learning from last time. The way it was broken this time was completely different. Next day after my phone kept going on and off, I took it for repairs. They could not do anything about it because the battery has expanded. The heat from the phone being used/charged caused the battery to expand. And apparently the battery liquids have spread over the phone. So it was time to get a new one. Around the next week, I got a new phone to replace my now broken one. Going forward, I would turn the phone off more often and not leave it charged overnight anymore. So I made the phone account transfer process after I got my new phone. Shortly after the phone transfer was completed, I got a phone call from a number I did not recognize completely immediately. I picked up the phone and it was CancerChaser. Apparently, CC's number got unblocked when my new phone details got transferred. There is no way I would even think about unblocking him at all. Especially after CC got in the way of my livelihood for his selfish pleasure. He called in through sheer luck and timing. 9. CancerChaser in aggressive, hostile tone said yeah and asked if I really thought that he only thinks for himself. I was caught on the spot and not being prepared to deal with stupid nonsense from invasive harassers like CC. I was trying to move on with my life and focus on important matters. CC is the one who called my number to harass me after I told him that I wished to never speak to him again. This is an invasion of my life from CC. In my unguarded state of mind, I replied yes. He told me the following quote and hung up. Go F yourself. This is clear-cut harassment. CC called my number for the sake of giving verbal abuse. Is there any indication that I did not truly mean what I said when he was selfish? This was weeks later. I did not call him at all afterwards, nor did I send him any texts to that number. I wanted nothing to do with him. I filter what I say very often and never called him selfish until he finally made me choose between him or my job. His self-awareness is almost non-existent. There is no way in any time period after the texts I sent him that I would change my mind about him only caring for himself. Even though I was unprepared, I did mean what I said through text and what I reiterated over the phone. And it has never changed nor will it ever. What kind of person starts asking emotional manipulating questions when they are told that the other person has a job and cannot help at that time? How many forwarding emails have I ever done for him? How many times has he returned the favor for me when I asked for gaming companionship? I should have shouted at him over the phone, hung up, then blocked the number. Now going back to the time he tried to call me on October 4th and his call got blocked. Notice the 7th symbol on the top left corner of the screenshot. It is a no SIM card sign. It came from the source phone of the transfer. So not only is this evidence that CC tried calling me for harassment, but also proof that a phone transfer did indeed happen. Not to mention, the calls on the log, which shows usage, proving the transfer further. So it is not a convenient excuse to why I suddenly unblocked him. That has to be done manually on the same phone, and highly unlikely accident. Here is a clearer example of the no SIM card sign. Rather than trying to call him back for his leisure of talking over me and hanging up, I sent him an email to give him one last warning, to try to get him out of my life. This is the email and his reply to it. Contact me again in any way again and I will alert the authorities. Leave me alone. I don't ever want to see or talk to you again. Stop calling my number or the police will respond. I need to emphasize that this email was the last time I have ever tried to contact him. I have never sent him any messages to him after this. No email, phone calls, text messages, or anything like that. Nothing. I never ever said a word to him in real life after I cut him off, either. To this date I made sure to never talk to him ever again on my end. And I will do the same. Very interesting reply. Stating that he would alert the authorities if I spoke to him in any way. As if I was harassing him. Except I am not the one who has done some invasive atrocities such as evading the block using another number and asking to unblock original number. Calling me randomly and being able to reach me because of technical repair situations. sending me hateful emails or phone calls following the times I wanted nothing to do with him. That is all he's doing. I have no reason to ever speak to him at all. He was manipulating me and abusing me for almost 2 years of our friendship, which only ended because he got in the way of a job. Any notion of me harassing him is laughable. Does he have any good proof that I harass him? I stated many times I wanted him gone. Why would I tell him anything? The email was because he called me, hence a response. I warned him about the police, because clearly he is the one trying to override boundaries. I do not work for or with him. He is not family. He is not my landlord. He is not part of any city/state/federal government or law enforcement. Most important of all, he is not my boyfriend. And I never gave any consent to be his boyfriend, or was even aware at all of any relationship with me and him. Even if I was his boyfriend and he tried to get in the way of my job, I would have cut the relationship off and be clear about it to him. I also have no legally binding contracts with him either. He called my number to insult me weeks after I told him, and I quote, "Please never talk to me again." Very first line of the texts. Also, keep in mind, he lives a few blocks away from me. It is CancerChaser who has problems ignoring me, thus justifying the need for law enforcement. Something tells me that at the very least he knows he is doing wrong himself and using that in an interesting way. That will also play out again. Afterwards, I was feeling scared for my life. CC injected himself into my life, and now that he knows he cannot have me, he might go and possibly kill me. What else was the purpose of his verbal abuse? I had nightmares, night terrors, sleepless nights, panic and anxiety attacks, all kinds of symptoms of fear from this man. After all, he called me during an unguarded moment when I was busy carrying on with my life moving on. I had no knowledge that his number got unblocked and only answering a number I did not recognize. His location of where he lived alongside the fact that he used a different number to call me before to evade my blocking does not help either. Eventually, I told some of my closest friends about CC's actions. One person, who I will dub AA, decided to speak out about this. Seeing the context of what happened and how I was feeling, he tried to spread info about this situation on several groups. As far as I know, I only know about the posts that was posted on groups. Going to be honest, I did not like how he handled the situation. He was very hasty when posted about it. But, AA had good intentions, just needed a bit of guidance on how to handle these situations. I was able to get the post he put about this situation. Here is the post with a redaction of CC replacing his real name.
I honestly did not want to post this, but this is a serious problem. CC needs to stop stalking a specific person that I need to keep private. He was told never to talk him again September 27th, and yet he kept calling back at least twice. He has 2 numbers and he used them to stalk his prey. If he keeps trying to stalk this person again, police will be called. I need to bring this up because CC is a persistent stalker and his actions caused panic attacks and loss of sleep for his target.
The quoted post was in the opinion of the individual I dubbed as AA. CC found this message. But did he contact AA? No. He blocked AA with no word to him. Instead, he sent me an email about it. He harassed me again. Keep in mind, I did not post that message. I also did not send him anything. No contact from me. CC sent me an email over a message about his harassment of me and how he needs to stop that. This email is one of the most vile, yet revealing emails I have ever received. Here is a link to it, but I will save covering it until the ending part of this chapter. Let's just say there's a reason most of the previous chapters and this one have instances curly brackets appearing during specific crucial moments of CC's actions. It is leading to this email. Moving on, I took the emails and the texts and brought them to the police. I told of the context and they told me to go to a different office. I went to that office the next day because it was closed by the time I went to the police. The next day I was simply given papers and told to fill them out and come back the next day to present them. I talked to my family about this situation and they told to not pursue him over this because it was too expensive and time-consuming to handle a potential court case regarding CC's harassment. I had to let the reporting go. One of the things CC likes to brag about is how he was there for me when I was possibly going to be kicked out of my home and how I threw myself on the floor. I did the same thing when I went to see another friend in her home. Only this time CC was the problem. He truly sees himself as invaluable, even though other friends did the same as what he did, only without the abuse, manipulation, harassment, trying to get in the way of a job, and the claims he made in the latest email he sent. My friend simply told me to ignore CC and try to forget about it. Now it is time to expose CancerChaser for everything he did to me and to prove what kind of a person CC truly is. The email link again? Tell your friends or whoever to stop posting beep about me on Facebook. Coming from someone who called my number after I cut contact with him, told him I want nothing to do with him, and then blocked him. He reaps what he sows. If he did not want this, then he should have not tried to call my number to abuse me. Have pent-up aggression? Take it somewhere else. Vent. I never wanted to hear from him about anything he had to say. He forced himself on me with the phone call I never wanted. A call that was blocked until a transfer did not transfer over the blocked number list. What gives him any rights for him to do this? I do not try to contact you, nor do I have two numbers. Wrong and wrong. Here is the most relevant definition of contact in regards to this context.
Communication with someone, or with a group or organization.
And here is communication.
The process by which messages or information is sent from one place or person to another, or the message itself.
Calling my number is contacting me. And he knows it is my number. That is definitively a try. And the October 4th attempt was also that, too. And it does not help that he sent me an email, which also is contacting as well. In regards to a post about something he did, by someone else. As stated before, he did not speak to AA. He went directly to me. So yes, he did contact me and did it again. Since this is after I told him never to talk to me again, that is harassment. And he did it twice over. And about the two numbers. According to this, which was found by searching for CC's real name, CC apparently does have two numbers. Even if he did not have two numbers, it does not change the fact that he used a second number to evade my block and stalk me. Using a second number to evade a block would logically conjure the assumption that CC would have two numbers. He indeed used them to speak to me, especially in an invasive context, asking to unblock his first number. I'm going to call the authorities if this garbage continues. If that is directed at me, then it is an empty threat. What does he have to press charges at me? I did not post that message. Does he have the means to pay his lawyer to sue me and go to court? If it's for AA, then CC should be sending him the messages, not conducting harassment at me. I sent CC nothing after the email where I told him to leave me alone. If he went through this toothless endeavor, I don't think it would go far. Now for the final line that truly exposes CC for what he truly is. I was a good friend to you, but you were not to me. This is what he has to say to me after nearly 2 years of knowing each other. That he was at his good level of conduct and I never even came close to making him feel good at all. Either that or he effectively erased all positive things I ever did for him and rendered them as null and void while pretending he did exceptional things. Now to recap the actual context and the reality of our relationship. What he did for me, he initially reached out to me, not the other way around. 1. After 4 months of what I understood was a friendship, suddenly insinuating that we were in a relationship without my knowledge of this status. Being unclear about it until right at that moment. 2. Started lashing out at me harshly through text just because I suggested a phone if he could afford it. Thinking I am insulting his wealth, when actually speaking from a poor perspective and not knowing anything about his financial situation. 3. Threw a fit at me in public just because I did not have disposable time for him. Then made me nervous enough to have nervous laughter, and he took it as me laughing at him for his feelings. He also asked me for $30 as a response to me asking if I can make him feel better. 4. When asked about his teeth, he responded angrily about it. Did not back off after I told him that I was taken. Kept the interest going knowing this. 5. Became jealous when I treated a friend who I knew much longer than him with less anxiety and thought the way I treated him was exclusive to him. 6. Initially reluctant, I talked him into playing a 10-minute game with me just to leave halfway through. Tried asking him again but with no avail. 7. Called me with another phone fully knowing that I blocked him and asking me to unblock him. This comes after a fallout between us involving messages and emails. Used emotional manipulation of my loneliness to coax me into unblocking him. 8. Got in the way of my job by trying to take scheduled time away from it just for his own pleasure and with no regard of the importance of my employment. Trying to use emotional manipulation with implying that I don't like him anymore. 2.1 And he has told me that he works. 9. Called my number at precise time for the sole purpose of throwing profane insults at me. Many days after I told him to never speak to me again. To be generous, here are the good things he did. He gave emotional support sometimes throughout our friendship. He never stole from me. What I did for him, came to see him at his home when he wanted prior to. 8. A. Gave him a birthday present complete with a card. $. Did it again next year. Squared. Really tons of emails of pictures that he asked for. That he went out of his way to call me for that. 2. Percent gave him a lanyard that he simply abandoned in my home. Now I turn to my followers and everyone reading this post. Considering the context above, I will leave you with one open-ended question. Was CancerChaser truly a good friend to me as he insisted?
Comments.
According to CancerChaser, gifts like this matter nothing to him. He is an ungrateful disgrace to humankind and gay people above all else. Fuck this inhuman scum of a man.
No. 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 He has no fucking right to call himself a good friend. Good friends do not leave halfway through Kirby Superstar. Good friends try to give back or at the very least help out the best they can, especially after they get a gift for their birthday, which is what CancerChaser failed to do. Emotional support? Strangers give out emotional support, too. CancerChaser is truly a fucking ass-clown who uses people and cares literally nothing for them. Preventing jobs and now this shit with the harassment and the fucking nerve to say that Will Artens Club was never any good, when in reality, he gave him tons of patience. He is full of shit.
No. CancerChaser was not a good friend at all, ever. He was being a scumbag leech who wanted to fuck Will Artens Club and could not compromise at all. He needs to rot in hell. Will Artens Club, you were actually good to see, it's just that he will never recognize that. Because as you found out, he cares solely for himself and nobody else. He cannot value a single person out there. He is basically a fucking disgrace.
The same scumbag who refused to finish Kirby Superstar has the fucking nerve to say he was good the entire time. He is a liar and a fucking irredeemable piece of shit prick. Fuck this CancerChaser scumbag. And that he was never even a good human being. Let alone a good friend, as he puts it.
By the way, CancerChaser was never good friend at all to Will Artens Club. He used him all the time and did jack shit in return.
Is he serious? Absolutely fucking not. CancerChaser is a selfish scummy load of shit. You cannot honestly call yourself anything a friend after pulling shit like this. Clearly you got to him. He was so upset about your final rejection that he felt that had to send you insults. Pathetic of him. He must not stop thinking about you. What a piece of shit human cancer cunt is. I met douchebags in real life who do nothing but be assholes to me and they can considered better friends than this CancerChaser shithead. Not mention, him trying to use the cops is ridiculous and just him saying me too, but carrying no weight because unlike you, he has no proof.
On what fucking planet? On what fucking dimension? He is the opposite of a good friend. The man has it backwards.
Definition of good.
Good, of a favorable character or tendency.
Definition of friend.
Friend, one attached to another by affection or esteem. Acquaintance. One that is not hostile.
Does not fit. He is full of crap and fails drastically.
Fuck no 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 fuck no. In a weird parallel mirror universe, yes. In real life, no.
No. He was using you. He is just salty you fucked his ass up for trying to stop you from your job. Fuck this CC shit brain.
This man is just unbelievable. He makes me sick. So ridiculous what he did to you. I seriously hope I am not associated with people of his ilk. I am nothing like this CancerChaser person. I wish he was straight because his behavior brings so much blight to the LGBT community. Yuck. Calling people to yell expletives at them is stupid and now wants the cops on you after he did that. Even stupider. Then he asks you to leave him alone when you never said anything to him and he called your number to harass you. Horrendous man he truly is. Loves how he denies that he tried contacting you, too. And after everything you did for him, he says that you never good to him. That is very contemptible and revolting to the highest degree. I guess you are only a good friend to him if you surrender your entire life to him because not even a job that you have to do is good enough for him to understand. He truly is a selfish creature and a parasite with a human body. This CancerChaser guy is doing something called projection. He is taking his own faults and placing them on you. It is clear, with evidence on your side, that CC is the one who never did any good for you and hindered you while you did so much for him that could not do himself. And he also wanted your body as well. He valued you for that. Seriously, do not take CC's words to heart. He is a narcissist who would be saying to you, good or bad depending on his feelings. Saying all those emails he demanded from you suddenly don't count as good deeds proves his malicious and mentally sick attitude he has. He was not a good friend to you. He never wanted friendship from you. He wanted you to be his boyfriend. Seriously, I do not wish to have me or my sexual preference to be associated with this travesty known as CancerChaser. He is not representative of the LGBT community. And as gay man myself, I denounce him greatly.
CancerChaser is not a good friend at all. CancerChaser is pretty much the worst chubby chaser in the entire world. Asking favors all the time and later saying that they don't count is just wrong. Very wrong.
I agree. Yes. If he feels that way, then to him he was good to you and you were never good to him. That being said, what prescribed medicine is he not taking for his abundantly apparent mental condition?
Of course not. He is so full of himself. He thinks he is the best person in existence, and anybody who does not what he wants is a piece of shit. His parents must have never taught him anything. He is a fucking narcissist. Anybody who actually thinks he is good or in the right is mentally challenged or sucks CancerChaser's dick. He does not deserve you. He does not deserve a single friend ever. He deserves to be alone for the rest of his life. He is a redeemable scum.
No. CancerChaser is scum. Not friend.
All CancerChaser cares about is exclusively himself. This is proven by his actions trying to prevent Will Arton's club from getting into his job. No friend does this. Very reprehensible. He has no right to call himself a friend to anybody.
Here is the rundown. Constant bullying. His friend asked for money, would not actually return simple favors after receiving tons of favors on his side, try to steal a day from his friend's job for his own sake, using emotional manipulation, calling the former friend who wants nothing to do with him in harassing ways, and after all of that, he has the gall to say he was the good friend and that everything he was not good enough. CancerChaser is not a good friend, he never was. He was a leech. I am very much a guru of friendship, and CancerChaser was clearly being a using manipulator for own sexual pleasure. He takes but never gives back. Horrible monster he is.
Obviously not. Emotional manipulator for sex. Also he is doing projection. Clear signs of sociopath.
No, he is not even Deck's friend. The CancerChaser man is a manipulative stalking piece of shit. He deserves no sympathy. He deserves no love, no friends, no partners. He is a human version of a monster. The man was an awful person and should have been pursued with legal action, but I understand the money situation of not being able to.
Anybody who tries to manipulate others out of money has no right to call themselves a friend. CancerChaser is a straight-up enemy.
Seriously, this guy basically way worse than Joffrey, Walder Frey, Euron, Ramsay, Cersei, and all Gotivilians. Because this CancerChaser man is a real person who actually abused and manipulated people. This man is exceptional scum.
CancerChaser is very wrong. All he cares about is his own sexual pleasure and would do anything, including destroying other people's lives, for own desires, and only his desires matter to him. And he is obviously projecting. The favors he asked for are very easy to do, and yet he never thanked his victim for the help he received that he begged for. He has no right to say he was any good to my friend. Clearly CancerChaser is the bad friend, and there is evidence supporting that. The large amount of emails laced with attachments is proof enough that he is so full of lies. And also, for leaving halfway through a short video game segment and doing nothing with the controller, CancerChaser lied about wanting to play, which makes him an even filthier liar. Anyone who agrees with this CancerChaser is either a liar, a troll, a lover of his, or just as sociopathic as he is.
Wait, he wants to call the cops on you after he called your number to harass you. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, I think he is that a word.
Trigger warning. Game-ending AK self-deletion references possibly exists in this chapter.
Chapter 9 tilde my final thoughts. First of all, I would like to thank everyone who has liked, reblogged, and supported all the previous chapters throughout the entire story so far. You were amazing, and I loved how you decided to read all of those long posts I put out there. I have no idea how much was read, but I am grateful I have some audience. I need to be grateful to have some people willing to hear me out. And to see that many people have responded so passionately in regards to my question of CancerChaser claiming to be good in the context of everything he did or did not do, made me feel very good inside. All of you who responded made it the highlight of the year for me. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. All of the responses have no real preference to me because I don't wish to cause infighting or jealousy. I think everyone's response is equally important. I will pick the most memorable point of the responses to the CancerChaser question. From lettuce, garlic, bacon, tomato. This CancerChaser guy is doing something called projection. He is taking his own faults and placing them on you. It is clear, with evidence on your side, that CC is the one who never did any good for you and hindered you while you did so much for him that could do himself. It is obvious that CC was projecting. He was projecting in his email where he tried to make an empty or poorly aimed threat at me, just like he was projecting when he tried to say that he would do the same in regards to me getting the authorities involved. This man clearly cannot handle anything critical coming his way. He takes what negative things he says and throws it back thinking it would hurt them. But it does not apply to me because I certainly do not try to talk to people who cause me trouble, especially getting in the way of my job. And if he had anything on me, he would just go to the cops. I warned him simply because I was tired of having to hear from forced interactions by him to me. I thought if I told him that I am going to start getting law enforcement involved, he would back off. He did not. So I tried getting them only to be convinced to drop it. I looked up the second number CC used to harass me. It led to a shop I am going to have to keep confidential, because I do not wish to try to get them in trouble for whatever CC did with one of their phones. I told the person who seems to run the place about CC's use of their phone. What I got in response was the man suggesting that I should take CC to court over this if he broke the law. Again, I do not have a war chest to take legal action like this. Hopefully one day I can get enough money for a war chest to respond to CC if he tries anything after the fact, or anyone else who is this intrusive like him. As I stated before, I have never given CancerChaser any interaction whatsoever after responding to his harassing phone call he got through the phone transfer. And months after his projecting email, he went again on Facebook using a different account to send me a message, as I have blocked both of his accounts that bear his real name. I know it is him because the person's account he used on me has the same surname, and through searching CC's real name would also give you info of relatives, and that relative name also appears. I will not disclose details for privacy reasons. I have no idea why the relative would send me any messages to me as I never met the person either, which means it was CC using that person's account. After CancerChaser sent me that very atrocious projection email, I started to consider making this Tumblr blog to write the story. But I waited until I got 100 followers so people would know what was going on. I got much more. A few paragraphs in the introduction was my progress when CC messaged me. And from there I knew I had to write and post this. There was a lot of interruptions that happened behind the scenes that were unrelated to CC or the writing of the story that got this delayed constantly. I initially had a goal of finishing this by end of June or July, but when I covered chapters, it took a huge amount of time for me to finish each chapter, and I learned the real nature of the process the more and more I started working on them. I had to format, check spelling, think, double-check details, cross-reference, review drafts, look at files in relation, search my emails, and tons of other things. All of this on computers I used on a library and computer labs. I also had many interruptions take place, family-related, as well as staying on top of Pokemon Go. Each month Niantic had a community day where a certain Pokemon to catch showed up in mass with a shiny version possibility. As well many other Pokemon Go events such as raid days for legendary birds. I also had busy things to do, such as working volunteering in conventions and scheduled meetups. And finally when I went to the library in October, there was a hiring event for me to get a job and I applied. I did not expect to get hired because I applied to many jobs and got no follow-ups, and to my surprise I got hired. So the job I received had taken a ton of my time, so that caused the chapters to push even further and I was working on the 7th one when it happened. I even lost my flash drive containing my files, but luckily I had posted many chapters and still had access to the emails and other similar evidence. All of this is why it took the entire year for me to post all of the story by now. I wish I could have finished it earlier, but again, I used borrowed computers to type this up. It seems to be old news by now, but given the limited time to use computers to write this in a competent manner combined with interruptions, there was no way I could have posted everything before without doing costly measures. I know this may be an old issue by now and it may be true that CC has not interacted with me since the Facebook message, but that does not exonerate him. What he did was wrong and immoral. No amount of time can change the fact that his harassment was very uncomfortable and it was very vile of him to get in the way of my job and then start harassing me with hateful messages and willingly sending me very derogatory and hurtful emails. All of what he did is very reprehensible and he needs to be held accountable for it. And also consider two facts. First, that he lives near where I live and knows my location, which makes his harassment much scary in context. Second, he waited months between the email and Facebook message. Do I need to mention how he called with another number? The man has proven that he lacks restraint. For all I know, he has a plan to hurt me even more. I think he is playing into the waiting game very well and is trying to wait longer times so he can use the time as an excuse to keep harassing me, and I truly believe that. Just because it happened a long time ago does not make it correct and justified. Especially when I could not be able to post this entire story in its full context in a week. Would racial slurs and death threats be completely invalidated if they were reported later with actual evidence? Where was Hulk Hogan's "it happened a long time ago" card? It did not work for him when the WWE scrubbed him off their records for a while over his racist, candid comments. Also, some of the incidents that occurred that were reported later in the not-so-awesome document of #ChangeTheChannel are in fact up to 8 years old when the document was compiled. Not to mention, none of this kind of waiting a long period of time rhetoric has been properly defined despite its strong enforcement. When is the grace period I can properly report incidents? I would love to know so I properly dedicate all of my life to post the exposure and set all other important matters aside so I can make sure this issue is resolved. Just like how I made sure to redact CC's identifying details, and telling the truth as I remember it. I even had the "happened a long time ago" excuse used on me when an incident was 2 weeks old. Not to mention, I still have nothing but resentment towards CancerChaser because of all the harassment, exploitation, bullying, and everything else has said and done or did not do to me, and I still feel none of what he did is justifiable. He literally asked me for endless favors, and then told me all of that meant nothing to him because it was never good enough, and I proved that with evidence last chapter. I have seen CC several other times after he told me how much a worthless scum I always was to him. But I made sure to never even interact with him. Anytime I see him in person, I either run away and take refuge hidden somewhere, or stay inside until he is far away from me. I have seen him 5 times this way, and the latest is November 7th. I even avoid even approaching the surrounding area where he lives and get off the bus many blocks away to minimize encounters of him. I consider his area of where he lives to be a danger zone. I will continue to refrain from ever contacting CC ever again. I seriously do not care for him trying to get the cops on me because I have nothing to fear. If they did not care too much about my evidence-filled case, then CC would have a lesser time. I am posting about him because I need to bring public attention to this horrendous situation as a precaution of disturbing and suspicious creepers such as CC, and what to do with disturbing situations like this. These heinous actions need exposure as a precaution for people to consider if they get targeted by these kind of creepers. Chasers that are intrusive are very potentially harmful, and CC definitely proved that. And if that is not enough, I recently found this story of YouTube channel Elimination who described her story about her creepy abusive boyfriend who lived in California. Watching her story was touching because her recounting her bully gave me flashbacks of CancerChaser. I feel very sympathetic of Alyssa and her coming with what she went through. I will leave links to the 2 current parts of her story.
Moving on, but if the age difference there isn't enough to prove he was a predator, this person also pressured me into sending explicit pictures of myself and threatened me when I said no, which I did. I felt brainwashed, trapped in my own mind games, and slowly he broke me down, made me choose sides, and conditioned me to do anything he wanted. I became apathetic, depressed, irritable, anxious. I kept having nightmares about that night. I'd wake up crying or screaming. Since February 5th, I had completely shut down, as if Harris had successfully reprogrammed me to be his little robot. When he texted me, I texted back immediately. When he wanted me to be awake, I stayed awake. And when he demanded pictures, I sent them.
Like Harris, CancerChaser has caused some serious problems for me and certainly is a menace around my local area to me. Here is a list of problems caused by him and his other potential problems. This man's location, as stated many times, is very close to mine, making him less avoidable. This makes seeing him much more likely. We kept seeing each other frequently when we were on better terms, and after his most horrendous actions meant I needed to make sure to avoid him. Even though I do avoid his street, I have seen him close my home this year. But also seen passing past the library, seen him passing past the pizza place I was in, saw him coming out the gym, and finally I managed to find him when I was buying envelopes. And all of those times I tried actively to avoid him. Him being located this close is hazardous for me. I already know how he abused my phone number and email. God knows what else he can do to me beyond that. I also have mistaken several people who have a similar body or look for him, which caused me to be scared until I noticed that it was not him by looking at the person long enough or hearing them speak. This complicates the problem. A problem that would not exist if CC did not abuse me as he did. I also need to take people like him into account when I meet new friends. Before CC, I would have loved people reaching out to me and be my friend, but after that, I now have to suspect such people. His manipulation tactics are another hazard. I have later seen these gambits used again on me from beggar con artists in NYC. I literally had to deal with someone asking for a handout from me and tried using word for word that CC used where he ironically got me to stop liking him forever. Which ties into the previous point. What if I make a new friend and he acts manipulative to me in a shady leechy way? I already have a good idea of what to expect from them. He used me and I feel very exploited by what he did. How many other people will never appreciate what I ever do for them? I try to give credit when it's due when I am able to. Not only did CC never give me any credit, he also outright told me I was a worthless. Want to read that last line of the email again? I was a good friend to you, but you were not to me. This last one actually does not apply to me, but would apply to anybody who are unfamiliar with gay people. CancerChaser's actions as whole are a monumental disgrace to all homosexuals everywhere and can potentially set the LGBT movement far back. I am fortunate can identify CC as an outlier and can separate him from homosexuality, because I have met some wonderful gay people who are leagues superior to even CC at his best. One of them treated me with generosity, and I told him how very grateful I was to him and I will never forget what he did. Another was nice to me, hosted a wonderful event I participated in, and gave me a drawstring bag. So I know not to judge LGBT community just by CancerChaser's terrible actions. I can separate him from his sexuality and not judge any gay person from this just because they have the same sexual preference. But imagine if CC was the very first gay person someone has ever met and he gave them the same abuse and forcing that I received from him. Now add in all the negative stereotypes, prejudice, stigma, and all the homophobia in regards to being gay. CC's abusive and manipulative behavior can make people homophobic, and this is just very wrong. CC is the worst kind of person to meet if you are neutral or biased against homosexuals. The LGBT community has enough problems as it is. They need to never be characterized as harassing bullies, selfish leeches, or unrestrained creepers. That is the last thing they need. All of the struggles to come out of the closet are hard enough. CC brings nothing but dishonor to men who love other men. In my subjective opinion, he is by far the worst homosexual man I have ever met in my entire life. I need to now answer another question he asked. Specifically his response to when I was nervous around him in the beginning of 2017. Who I am? Count Dracula. No. CancerChaser is not Count Dracula. Count Dracula is a fictional character created by Bram Stoker. He may be a predator who drinks blood of his victims, but he is not a real human being and he is incapable of hurting real people. CancerChaser is a real person who I consider a real terror. From his persistence of harassment, to his overgrown petulant behavior, his blatant disregard for responsibility, his parasitic behavior, and lack of self-awareness. I feel he is a dangerous person who hurts people in real life. Unlike Count Dracula, CancerChaser is not a character in popular media, he is a real legitimate person I have actually had experienced. And I find him to be miles scarier than the Dracula character can possibly be. CancerChaser does a massive disservice to homosexuals everywhere. He is to gay people as Osama bin Laden is to Muslims. As far as I'm concerned, he is the Momokun of the LGBT community. CC is pretty much the bare equivalent to the likes of video games such as Action 52, E.T., Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, Superman N64, Zelda the Wand of Gamelon, and Bigger Eggs. He managed to outdo every person who had wronged me throughout the time we knew each other and every person who hurt me in the past since 2008. Jay the Junkie Beggar. The abusive paramedic. That one psycho I had to deal a year before I met CC. Hell, I was treated better by people on the streets who wanted to beat me up than how CC treated me. I got better courtesy from people yelling profanities at me in person and pressuring me out of my money. And at least Jay, the abusive paramedic, or everyone else I listed in this paragraph never abused my phone number or email, something CC definitely did on both fronts. He was hardly any good to me. Friends I already have met later already outrank him. The reason I wanted him to play games with me is because everyone was and still is very busy in their respective lives and now I am, too. Complete strangers have done much better than what CC has done at his best. When one of the most positive things about him is that he is not a thief. That is just sad. But even if he was better to me, his attempts to get me to leave my job is still very immoral. I have people in my local area who play Pokemon Go and we help each other all the time. The people in the local raid group give me rights to the raid areas when they can and I find them to be valuable. If I treated them like how CC treated me, with such reckless selfishness, I would be excommunicated. I would receive much less help from them and my experience would suffer. I need to reiterate that one girl who I claimed was my girlfriend to CC in vain attempt to get him out of my life. She was a girl I wanted to love and I met her in college. She rejected me and unfriended me on Facebook. After that I left her alone. I never spoke to her again. If I treated her the same way CC treated me, with that kind of selfish lust and controlling demand, I would get restraining orders and might get in serious trouble with the college. I would rather live out in the cold and negative Fahrenheit degree weather than to ever even approach his home. He is just that toxic. I have never had to deal with someone this horrendous in my adult life ever. That is pretty much the end. I have nothing else to say about CancerChaser. So I will end this chapter and story with this paraphrased and modified quote from Urinating Tree, because the tone template fits my feelings of CC and all what he did to me these past 2 years. Congratulations to CancerChaser. He has acted so horrendous that every other offender that I had to deal with this decade can walk with their heads held high as they didn't conduct themselves in such putrid selfishness. His terrible behavior convinces people to hate everything pertaining to homosexuality to the point of 1860s bigotry. This man is better off shunned from any LGBT community. People may think he represents the worst of chubby chasers, but I call him a travesty upon the human race who just happens to fetishize overweight men. He has hurt too many people and should be ashamed for it.
Comments.
So wonderful.
I hope CancerChaser leaves not just you alone but everyone else he bothers. And I mean forever. He needs to be alone until he reforms. But never go back to the people he hurt.
My pleasure. No problem. Good job destroying this freak.
CancerChaser just got totally destroyed. Holy crap.
Mega roasted.
Yeah!
You fucked him up.
CancerChaser had it coming. That is one epic destruction of CancerChaser.
Many thanks for putting my quote, and not judging gays or LGBT based on this rotten apple. So happy there were gays who are wonderful to you. Hopefully, I could be one. Too.
Before I start the next entry in CancerChaser, I must provide more context into the minor instances of CancerChaser sightings that predated it.
I saw CancerChaser today. This morning he passed by a block away from where I live. I saw him crossing the street. This proves he still lives close. I obviously did not talk to him at all. I ran away on sight. I think he was on his way somewhere. Don't know, don't care. July 3rd, 2018. I saw him today as well. He passed by close to the library. I will be using this post for updates on how often I end up seeing CC without incident. Any future incidents on his part will be separate posts. Not me just seeing him in real life. On November 7th, 2018, I saw him pass by in a pizza place I was in. He did not enter. January 7th, 2019, he passed by a block or 3 away from my house. He was talking with someone on the phone. I ran away to the grocery store I was on the way to. Around 5 minutes later on my way back, he was still there and I wait for him to leave so I can come home. It is 2019 and I am still getting harassment from CancerChaser. On February 11th of this year, I was walking home from a job interview. I saw CancerChaser pass by a block, so I turned away and backtracked to walk away to make sure to let him pass first so I can get home safely. I turned around and I saw that he was gone. I took a look at the corner to see if he nearby and I saw him talking to someone. As soon as I saw him I started running home. I never followed him. 3 days later, February 14th, I was at a local park. There was a Palkia raid in Pokemon Go that took place at the park. The park in question is a few blocks away from both my location and CC's. It is also on the opposite direction of CC. The raid in question started around 6:26 p.m. and I went in with my local raid group around that time. I have logs of the group chat to corroborate this. In fact, after we have finished the raid, I noticed CC on the street side of the park while I was sitting on the bench around 20 feet away from him. Right after that I put my head down and focused on catching Palkia. After catching Palkia, I noticed CC was gone and I left further in the park away from the street. February 19th, CC sent me this harassing email. Only noticed it now, March 5th, because I periodically check if CC sends me emails in case he happens to do so. I never respond, only keep the emails to document. CancerChaser's latest email. Stop subscribing to me on YouTube, you nasty, fat-ass whale. I am not subscribed to him on YouTube. If I am, which account is it? Why would I subscribe to someone who exploits me, harasses me, and sends me bullying messages like this unprovoked? I have him blocked everywhere. Why would I subscribe to a local stalker like him? Especially if he tells me I was never good to him. Calling me a nasty fat whale in caps. What a strong moral character. No way toxic at all. God love the fat ass shaming, despite 2 years ago wanting said butt. You are a deranged stalker. You cannot have a CancerChaser moment without projection. That is like a modern Nintendo platform without a Mario game. I never sent any messages to him since 2017. Yet calls me a stalker. Again, I have not sent messages to him calling him a nasty, fat-ass whale. Or, I was a good friend to you, but you were not to me. Or calling his phone to tell him, go F yourself. The only solid lead he has is that he has seen me on the streets, but that is highly probable because we live several blocks from each other. I make sure to avoid his street at all costs. If the bus I board passes by his home, I make sure I am 4-5 blocks away when I stop and go further away from his street on my way home. I know where he lives, so if I was really stalking him, he would likely catch me there. Never closer to where I live or anywhere else. I saved all of the threats that your friends sent me on Facebook and I will be contacting the police if it persists. Very interested in those threats received on Facebook. Interesting choice of words. Also gotta love the quotes around friends implying I have none despite meeting one of mine IRL. I know people in the redacted police department, so you had better watch yourself, you pathetic ass wannabe beep. As you can probably tell, this is a poorly done intimidation tactic. Seriously, the email he sent me was pointless. If he was actually serious, he would send me nothing. He would go straight to the police. He knows my info so he can get the cops if he has strong proof to warrant my arrest. If he really knows people in the local police department and he brings up his side of the story of me harassing him, they would tell him that to not engage with me and to not divulge information about this, like what he is doing on the email. The insults at the end also do not help his cause, either. Making threats like that is shooting himself in the foot. This creep will never stop. I doubt he knows about this blog yet. Nothing that points to it is referenced at all. Again, I never have interacted with him after the last email in 2017. Very odd that he said absolutely nothing after April 2018, but suddenly get an email in February 2019. I suspect that he was waiting long periods of time to get at me over, and here it is. As stated in Chapter 9. I totally called it.
Comments.
Wow. What a disgrace. This degenerate is still going on with his bullshit? More bullying, scumbag. And he is playing the victim while throwing hateful insults. He's incredibly dumb too. Fuck him. This needs tons of exposure.
All talk, no walk, all bark, no bite, all bluff, no action, claims police, 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 yet does not actually present it to the authorities, says he is threatened, yet not only responds to one specific person and not the sources, but also makes threats of his own. CancerChaser is a stone-cold hypocrite.
Cancer cunt is acting just like Maddox. So pathetic, much more than he claims you are. Only idiots gloat their connections like that. Idiots out of touch. People nowadays keep that a secret. And he suddenly decides to attack you like that. Big mistake. The internet never forgets.
I thought this would be all over, but no. That sociopath is still persists. Going to be ripping him a new one.
That Cancer is lonely again, so he is back to sending shit to his favorite contact. If he wants to call people pathetic ass wannabe bitches, he look in mirror first before he opens his fruity mouth. What kind of dog thinks his homies at the police department will suck his dick? A boy who has nothing. If he ain't playing, he would be shutting the fuck up and giving proof to his police boys, not sending emails that can be used to expose him. He walked into a trap. He ain't getting enough dick, so he is out there yabbing out his ass talking shit. Also, I think he wishes you are subbed to his ass on YouTube. He might be skipping out on his prescription drugs.
Fuck this poser cunt, deranged stalker, he divorced from reality.
Stop subscribing to me on YouTube. You cannot be serious. This guy sounds mentally handicapped. Fuck this disgusting fucker.
I left Tumblr for over a year only to find this out. I can't believe our LGBT community has people like this who will never stop harassing people. The CancerChaser freak needs to know to stop being such a horrendous creeper that is making all of us look bad. CancerChaser has nothing to do with me or any other LGBT people I know. I want nothing to do with this monster. As a gay man, I am deeply sorry for everything CancerChaser has done. He does not represent us at the LGBT movement. He is a disgrace.
I denounce CancerChaser. This man continues to be a creepy bully, and I do not condone this garbage behavior.
This guy doesn't seem like a gay guy. He seems like a really fucked up high school bully. Also, this guy is scum for body shaming.
Trigger warning. Game-ending AK self-deletion references exist in this chapter.
I am the friend known as H from CancerChaser blog in Chapter 6. I am here to corroborate what my friend said and provide my side of the story of this situation. Will Artens Club, WC, told me about CancerChaser, CC, back in 2016 after the first incident where CC was wailing out on WC because of what seemed to a misunderstanding of affording a phone. I initially told WC to ignore him because he was not worth shit, or at least is what I initially thought. From there he kept me informed about what CC did throughout. Now to go into when I was first referenced in the chronicles about CancerChaser. From what I knew at the time, CC asked WC to send emails over and over from phone to his email. I have no idea why would he need WC to do that. He could have used something like Imgear. Given that CC had a phone that was not a smartphone based on what I was told, it would probably be impossible. Of course, trying to make simple suggestions to him like this is enough to make CC go into a hair-triggering temper tantrum, so there is no use to try to convince him to upgrade. It was 2016, being up to date shouldn't be too hard. You can even get refurbished smartphones for a fraction of full retail price. My parents have the latest phones, and they are older than CC by decades. Why did CC chose WC instead of other friends for these favors is beyond me. So he asked and asked and asked WC to send him these pics over and over. WC complied with generosity. WC likes to please his friends. He has pleased me multiple times. He also tries to be the best person he can be. Needless to say, CC took advantage of him. So when it came time for CC returned the favor, he was resistant initially. When he finally did start playing, he did until after half of the game was over. The game was Spring Breeze from Kirby's Superstar on Super Nintendo. Did you know that Spring Breeze is a remake of the original Kirby's Dream Land on Game Boy with a missing level and boss? So CC did not even bother finishing such a short abridged game. That betrayal was just foul play on CC's end. Then CC would later use WC's insecurities to gain him back and asked for more favors. WC then approached me on rethinking the situation. I initially thought that he probably did not like the game and was bored. I made a suggestion to pick a game that has much less interaction, like some touchscreen DS or 3DS game. WC brought up Our Touched, so I thought would be a good choice there. My reasoning is that CC probably has no real interest in video games. I have heard that he has played Super Mario Bros. 3 growing up, which makes me realize that CC is a very casual non-gamer person. Reading the situation in question at Chapter 5 reveals that CC had been simply holding the controller or the direction pad in the upper right corner and seemingly pressed no buttons, which means he was faking interest and had no intention at all to return the favor. He really should have said that he had no interest in playing video games. He was lying to manipulate WC, which comes to no surprise that CC refused to play Our Touched when asked. He cannot play easy games. He cannot play very simple games. But he would lie about having an interest only for him to evade that with excuses. With friends like these, who needs bullies? The next time I was involved was when WC was having his panic attack resulting from personal issues that are stated in Chapter 6. I have received certain pictures that hinted that he was contemplating suicide. Being under vacation time from my job, I decided to actually come see WC to check up on him myself. When I saw him, he was sitting on a couch. When he saw me, he was excited to see me. I asked if he took any of the pills or hurt himself. He told me that he gave himself more time to think about it. Perhaps to think about the people that love him. He told me about the situation that led up to the panic attack. Best way to describe what was happening without revealing confidential information is that someone was very sick and emotions erupted. I had told him that he needs more time to hang out with friends. We not only did Spring Breeze in full, but also Meta Knight's Revenge, Dyna Blade, and Great Cave Offensive as well. Games in that collection that are larger than Spring Breeze. We did not get to do Milky Way Wishes that day, but we did eventually got to do it at another time. We also played Brawl Brothers. All I remember is that there was a code to play the Japanese version, and we did that and completed the game. It was short at 4 levels long. We also played events in Super Smash Bros. For Wii U. We did not clear all of the events, only some, but we did have fun. At Applebee's we discussed the situation further. There I learned that he had sent the same pics to other friends as well, which made me concerned. I thought that WC was going to get a wellness check on him, or worse, be committed to a mental ward for days. I only knew one recipient among the 7 besides myself. I never met CC in person. The person I knew is a mutual friend. The mutual friend never really got to see the messages, so he was unaware. It reached an old phone, and when he got a new one, the messages were deleted. The mutual was relieved to know that WC was okay and felt better. And yes, the mutual is informed of CC and his bullshit antics. I can confirm that he heavily resents CC, as I do. So I had to get WC to do damage control to avoid being institutionalized. As information like this can scare people and be irrational, we need it for cooler heads to prevail. So WC told everyone that it was for attention. So WC can still run his panel at the upcoming convention and not be stuck that weekend in a mental hospital. He really needed to avoid the ruining of plans like that. After all, my cousin once told me about the one time she told exactly one person that she felt suicidal because an aunt of hers being diagnosed of cancer. From her dad's side, I'm related through our moms being sisters. Telling her best friend was enough for the BF to call the ambulance, and my cousin had to stay in a mental ward for 16 days. CC's response was very callous. As far as I know, he never asked what was going on around that time. He just stayed silent and only responded with that shitty "I knew it" bullshit when he received the fucking cover-up. WC was crying for help and I answered the call. I live 2 hours away and this is chat lives minutes away in walking speed, yet gives radio silence to someone he calls himself a friend to, is mere blocks away, while I invest in gas and mileage to make sure WC is okay. Some friend CC is. For someone who claims to be a good friend in his hate mail, he sure shows no effort in even trying to check up on him. Real piece of scum CC is. I later go to see the panel and I liked it. Which comes to no surprise in my perspective. The next day I played Streets of Rage 1 with WC. The only other thing I remember is that there was some dude I met who was in a wheelchair because he broke his foot days before. Now for my thoughts about CancerChaser and his narcissism. Will Artens Club would later work for New York Comic Con and buy the Super NES Classic, which meant for the later part of September and early October he would be very busy. He also was seeking for connections, so there would not be any room for free time. CancerChaser did not give a shit about the adult responsibilities WC had to do. And despite CC being older than WC, CC would not take no for an answer and start guilt-tripping WC. Having enough of CC's scummy actions, WC finally cut ties. This was met with harassment and hate mail, which truly shows CC's a redeemable character in full form. CC is a fucking disgrace to everything it means to being gay. If I was gay, I would rather live in a fucking fraternity of homophobic bullies than to ever have anything to do with CC. This old man never seemed to learn a single thing about accountability or responsibility. How dare does he interfere with the job? What gives him the right to call his target for the simple reason to give expletives to him? On his emails. Disgusting does not come close. Making empty threats for law enforcement for intimidation and truly showing his true colors on how he uses people only to claim they are useless after the fact. On his latest unprovoked email where he makes more empty threats and more shitty insults is fucked up. I have heard that CC passed by a block away from WC's home twice after 2017. That is obvious projection. CC knows WC's location. Clearly CC is the stalker. Stalking close to his target's home and then acts like he is the victim and being harassed is scummy behavior. I have never seen such a scummy person ever as far as stalkers and harassers go. I honestly have no consideration for him as a human being. If he receives anything terrible short of death, it is karma. He deserves nothing but negativity and hate. This man is among the lowest of monsters. I have had to deal with people with psychosis several years ago, but this man is worse by the power of 10. There is bad people and there is extreme scum. CancerChaser is the latter. The only people worse than CancerChaser are child rapists, pedophiles, murderers, terrorists, abusive parents, and human traffickers. All those aside, CancerChaser is the worst kind of person out there. Fuck this man. Fuck him hard. CancerChaser has seemingly become a pariah on the internet because of his persistent and despicable actions that have been documented by Will Arton's Club. Exposed as CancerChaser's horrible actions such as manipulation, harassment, bullying, projection, and worst of all, attempting to interfere with a work schedule for his own selfish sexual pleasure at the cost of his victims' money and job opportunity. Will Arton's Club has extensively detailed the horrific actions CC has done, and I have brought them to video form. I also have stated my opinions on his horrible actions as well as my perspective of the story. Link will be in the description and end screen. This video will provide a spotlight for other voices that speak out against CancerChaser and his heinous, atrocious actions. Starting with the posts on Tumblr. CancerChaser in a nutshell.
Okay, what the fuck is this shit? Seriously? First of all, calling someone is trying to contact. Second, then what did you use to evade the number? Third, what are you going to tell the cops that you want the person you are harassing to get arrested? Last, you fucking high. He sent your ass tons of emails you could not yourself, but you could not play a video game with him for more than 5 minutes. CancerChaser equals you are the epitome of garbage.
An open letter to CancerChaser. I have been putting off for a while. Ever since Will Arton's Club posted about a man he called CancerChaser, I thought whether or not I should post about this gay man. Initially, I thought it was a post about bad experiences with a gay person, not much else. That was until Chapter 5, where CancerChaser started becoming parasitic and used Will Arton's Club for something he could not do himself, only to not return the favor. That just started making me have strong negative feelings for a while. And then he went and tried to prevent the other person's job for his own pleasure, just made me feel shocked and appalled. Finally, his harassment was so sickening, by even claiming how good he was and that nothing he received made him happy. That made me feel very insulted. This CancerChaser man truly made me just angry, as if I received a homophobic slur. Now moving on to CancerChaser. What kind of selfish man are you? Would you steal money from charity? Do you truly believe your contributions enable you to usurp employment of others? You feel you are too important for larger projects. How much self-awareness do you truly have? Bring yourself down from our pedestal and actually look at what you have done. If you truly cared about the people you loved, then why are you cheating on others? Break up with your boyfriend before having sex with others. As far as I am concerned, you are a horrible man who rips people off. You literally tried to steal a day from someone, a day they would pay for, and you tried to guilt trip your victim by asking if he stopped liking you. You are not important enough to take away time like that. I cannot believe people like you exist. People like you are human versions of blood-sucking bugs. Find a host, then suck them dry. You seem to have no compassion as a human being and care solely for your means. You took advantage of someone who accepted you in his heart and let you do too much to him just for the hope that he can have good bonds with good friends. You asked him to do many favors, yet you almost never gave back. You proved that you were worthless, and he still left you in his. What did you do to finally throw you off for good? You disregarded a job he had and tried to cost him money. What a kind of sick monster do you have to be? There is no excuse for what you did. You invaded someone else and hurt him deeply with your reprehensible and reckless behavior. Never once you considered his feelings, only yours. And at the end of all, you say that you are the good friend. You are wrong. You are merely projecting. You know you are the one who never was any good to him while he helped over and over. The wording says that, but in reverse. You are truly that much of a narcissist. I bet you would rob banks and claim that the banks stole your money. Because of all your actions, now me and my fiancé will have a better chance of being judged. I was bullied for being gay growing up. I struggled my sexuality growing up. I was once assaulted for being gay. I once dated a man who pretended to be gay for a joke and left me. Growing up loving guys was hard for me. And I already get judged for being gay. I was even thrown out of 2 Arabian stores because being gay was against the Muslim Bible. And now with your scummy behavior, we might get judged as abusive leeches as well. I seriously disown you as a gay man. You are not my part of my fellowship. You are much more fitting as a mentally unstable sociopath than a homosexual. You disgrace homosexuality as a whole. You do nothing for us except bring shame. You ruin being gay for everybody. LGBTQ communities desperately need to forsake people like CancerChaser. I am telling it right now. The LGBTQ movement needs to keep its house in order and cast out their worst people, and their best possible choice to excommunicate is people who are in the same level as CancerChaser. CancerChaser is a manipulative, philandering creep who sexually harasses people he likes. Taken or not. He just is that creepy. But that is just scratching the surface. He goes into serious depths. How about trying to prevent others from attending their workplace through guilt tripping? He has done to that one of my best friends, and I am beyond sickened by this scummy behavior. How about all the invasive and evasive actions he has done to my friend? We are talking abusing emails, using alternative numbers, and even alternative Facebook accounts. This disgusting creeper even lives a few blocks away from his target as well. He is also a disloyal cheater as well. When he was stalking and harassing his prey, he had another boyfriend all along. This subhuman bully had manipulated my friend so well that CancerChaser was able to convince him to unblock his number. All because my friend had very little amount of friends near him. And the police was useless in this situation as well. This man has been giving homosexuals and the LGBTQ movement a bad name with his scummy unrestrained actions. Why should CancerChaser be allowed to harass people to his liking? Imagine if instead CancerChaser being gay he was a homophobic bigot, and instead of conducting sexual harassment he was conducting homophobic harassment. This deranged deviant is a 40-year-old unhinged man who should know better, and yet he acts like a petulant child at people younger than him. And he has been a dirty liar who asks for tons of help but never delivers all the way. Plus taking advantage of kind and generous people all the way to preventing his target from going to an important job is very clearly in the wrong. His creepiness has nothing to do with his sexual orientation. It is not that he loves the same gender romantically. It is the means he goes about his love being the problem. Keep this in mind. There is even more to this. CancerChaser simply declared his target to be his boyfriend without any knowledge or consent of the other party. I am pretty sure love does not work that way. I am pretty sure that needs to be mutual for an actual relationship to form. You cannot simply declare someone to be your boy/girlfriend. And when his target mentioned that he was taken, he did not back off and started hitting on him about his butt. This CancerChaser monster cannot even restrain himself. And he is 40. Given what I know about his posts on social media regarding his sexual experiences and how he conducts himself, I believe he actually knows better and chooses to be this intrusive and gross at people he wants in bed. And after it all fell apart for the last time, he started harassing his victim and stated that he was never a good friend to him. CancerChaser is very wrong. All he cares about is his own sexual pleasure and would do anything, including destroying other people's lives, for own desires, and only his desires matter to him. And he is obviously projecting. The favors he asks for are very easy to do, and yet he never thanked his victim for the help he received that he begged for. He has no right to say he was any good to my friend. Clearly CancerChaser is the bad friend, and there is evidence supporting that. The large amount of emails laced with attachments is proof enough that he is so full of lies. And also, for leaving halfway through a short video game segment and doing nothing with the controller, CancerChaser lied about wanting to play, which makes him an even filthier liar. Anyone who agrees with this CancerChaser is either a liar, a troll, a lover of his, or just as sociopathic as he is. The LGBTQ community needs to cut this man and anyone else loose. Having people like him around is a massive liability. He is only going to make the entire movement look bad and become ammunition for homophobic bigots to use a destructive example for LGBTQ movement and homosexuals to look as deranged as possible. CancerChaser's horrible actions hurt the LGBTQ community. And it is important to keep the house in order. Having consistent decency is very important to your cause. If CancerChaser is not forsaken, then it makes the community looks very bad. He is as helpful to the LGBTQ movement as Logan Paul is to YouTubers. Cast him out like how the Splatoon community casted out Heavy the Squid. With the rise of cancel culture, CancerChaser deserves a cancellation. If anyone deserves to be cancelled, it is creepy harassing monsters like this. People who are so selfish it costs their victims money and opportunities. Until this depraved man changes, he deserves to be alone and single for the rest of his life. This goes to literally anybody out there like him who are disgusting creepers just like that horrible sexual harassing monster known as CancerChaser. And if he treats adults this way, could you imagine what kind of sick, twisted, unspeakable actions he would do to children? He has shown that he lacks restraint, so I believe that it is entirely possible that he might try to sexually harass underage boys as well. If he cannot act with dignity with adult men and cannot restrain himself, he should never be around children.
Breaking down CancerChaser's newest harassment wave. CancerChaser, also known as CC for short, is the equivalent of the Black Plague for homosexuals. In Walharden's Club series covering CC's abusive antics, he has shown himself to be highly manipulative, abusive, selfish, and vulgar. He never holds his side of the bargain, lies constantly, takes gifts for granted, bullies people on the odd day, and constantly breaches boundaries. Which is what I will be getting into. The line crossing begins with CC demanding to stop subscribing to his channel. Which does not make any sense. Someone does not stop subscribing to channels, they unsubscribe. This order can be done by the channel itself. Just go to www.youtube.com/subscribers to find your subscribers. Visit their channel to go find who you want to remove and block them. It is that easy. No need to ask others to do it for you. He then starts showing his true colors immediately by name-calling his victim a nasty fat-ass whale. Ignoring the given that CC himself is fat and was seeking out for Walharden's Club for a relationship initially in 2016, just shows how he has to take umbrage in someone's weight to try to use an insult. Being obese has disadvantage, but given CC's deep-seated character flaws he possesses. Being obese is nothing compared to the likes of narcissism, selfishness, and sociopathy. Then right away going into the signature CancerChaser projection where he takes his own negative traits and imposes them on his target. Because sending unsolicited, unprovoked emails at his targets is apparently what non-stalkers do. He starts making claims that he saved threats received from the friends of the target and using that ironically as a threat to law enforcement. Which is obviously done as a meaningless scare tactic given that any serious crimes committed would be given straight to the authorities without warning. Then claims he knows people in the police department. Given his constant lying streak, is likely another false claim done for intimidation. Who would openly mention that exactly? And even if he did have connections like that, why even bring it up? Not to mention any policeman worth his salt would need enough evidence to have an arrest warrant. Not at CC's whim as he suggests. CC's scare streak is very evident here, which casts doubt into any of the threat being fruitful. He ends with what is my opinion, one of the most terrible cringe-inducing insults I have ever read. They don't come across as insulting but so overused that they lack any meaning. In conclusion, CancerChaser's threats are limp and impotent. Clearly he is trying his hand at harassing his target, so he tires the same stupid tricks he has done before. He is trying to intimidate his target with this overreach of boundaries. Unfortunately, it only serves to prove how much of an obsessed projecting sociopathic harasser he is. Then there is the leaps of logic that the same as he bashes in the email is the same one he could not stop talking so much about. This man is a poor, sour, scummy monster of a human being, and he needs exile more than he needs a computer with an internet connection. Seriously, fuck this guy. He is catastrophic blasphemy to homosexuality.
That is what I can find on Tumblr. Next is a mutual friend between me and Walharden's Club, who has mirrored the exposure on his blog and added his own take on the situation. Let's just say he is not too pleased about CC and will not be friendly to CC to say the least.
CancerChaser, the worst monster of the LGBT community in existence. I have revived this blog to bring forth an exposure that needs to happen. Much worse than Chappie and his manic depressive friend. Someone so bad this man ruins an entire community of homosexuality. He is a disgrace to all gay people in existence. I need to air him out now. He truly deserves to be exposed. One of my best friends in the entire world who has been extremely nice to me and helped me through life has been targeted by a disgusting chubby chaser for the sake of his homosexual and intimate desires. And it is a local problem. The perpetrator lives 3 blocks away from his victim. He is known as CancerChaser. CancerChaser kept harassing his victim until police was threatened and even then still carried out the harassment in distant periods of time. CancerChaser also asked and received a ton help from his victim in the form of favors. Favors he never returned, except for one where he left halfway through. He also received gifts for his birthday from his victim, only for CancerChaser to state that he truly felt that his victim was never a good friend. He is pretty much a scummy leech. To act in such a disgusting way is sickening. This is horrific person. But what is worse is that CancerChaser attempted to pressure his victim into giving up his job to see him. This man's selfishness knows no bottom. You know what? Fuck this. I am done trying to keep up decorum here. Profanity is fucking warranted here. How dare he inject himself into other people's lives and do that? Yes, he fucking did that. He met his victim first and reached out to him with positivity, as a tool to coax him into getting him into his pants. And you know what's even more batshit insane? CancerChaser was cheating on his boyfriend, too. He had a boyfriend while he was trying to flirt around with my friend. So not only is CancerChaser a fucking invasive creep, but a filthy cheater. I seriously hate this man for good reason. He makes me want to be homophobic. But I will not let CancerChaser make me give in to being a bigot. By the way, CancerChaser is also a bigot, too. I cannot give certain info out, but he has been using slurs at minorities online. In my personal opinion, CancerChaser is a worse human being than the likes of Omar Mateen. Seriously, fuck this scumbag fucking monster they call CancerChaser. Fuck CancerChaser for harassing, bullying, and every single horrible fucking thing he has done to one of my best friends ever. My hatred of CancerChaser is justified. CancerChaser, go fuck yourself harder than ever possible. You are the worst gay person that has ever been born and the worst man ever conceived besides my father. People like you are the reason people hate gays. I hope your boyfriend finds out that you cheat on him and you get no more boyfriends for the rest of your fucking life. And if anybody wants to defend this fucking scumbag piece of shit, fuck you, too. You are justifying creepy harassing behavior and you should be ashamed of yourself. And finally, I will be embedding all of the blogs here to show the entire context on why CancerChaser is such a fucking travesty. And it is loaded with proof. See it for now.
Think that is harsh? You should see his response to CC's 2019 harassing hat mail.
Responding to CancerChaser's newest harassing email. CancerChaser has decided to send another fucking email at my friend, because he has no fucking life. 1. Who the fuck is subscribed to this fuck? He has no videos up. He does have 22 subscribers, but I can guarantee nobody in their right fucking mind would subscribe to a channel with no fucking content. And definitely not my friend, let alone myself. All it is just subscriptions, liked videos, and playlist. No actual content. At all. 2. Nasty fat ass whale? Normally I would get offended over fat shaming, but coming from CancerChaser, fuck. He has no leg to stand on. First of all, he is obese and yet he was once really skinny. So he had a transformation where he gained tons of weight. Epic fail. Also, who is the one who felt attracted to the body size? CC was the one who started hitting on my friend here. And I know about the time CC wanted his ass once. And now hates call him a nasty whale? What does that make CC? A nasty whale fucker, that's what. 3. My friend never interacted with the whale fucker in over a year. Also, all neighbors must be stalkers by whale fucker's logic. 4. What threats? This whale fucker is bluffing. Ironically making threats. How about engaging the people making the threats? He should engage me, that fucking whale fucking coward. 5. Love how he claims to know the police department and brag about it. If they're on the palm of his hand, the email can be leaked for scandal. But I think he is lying out his whale fucking us. 6. Better watch yourself. Threatening with threats received and not go to cops directly. By the way, the insult is weak and he is just trying to intimidate and failing miserably. CancerChaser is a fucking moron. Who sends emails like this? He just asking to get exposed. He clearly is still assured, because he got his ass dumped for trying cost people money and opportunities for a satisfaction of his scummy promiscuous whale fucking us. Also, you cannot be engaging if you are being threatened and harassed because the police cannot take that seriously if you were to do that. He is fooling nobody, and if he did have connections he would keep a fucking secret. This man is a fucking virus. Awaiting more harassment from CC to tear down like I did with this one.
I asked certain people on Facebook their views on CancerChaser, and I have received several good opinion pieces. CancerChaser is a complete selfish sociopath. As a homosexual myself, I feel disgusted that I have the same sexuality as him. What he does sickens me, and I have witnessed sexual assault. This man has the audacity to manipulate his friends over and over with no regard for their needs, and then say he was the one who was a good friend, and claim his victim was never good enough. That is so wrong in so many levels. He received present and a nice birthday card, and he still has the balls to pull this disgusting act? Very scummy shit. He is so unbelievable in so many ways. And his projection is crazy. Gives off a good indication that he knows he is doing fucked up things and yet claims he is the victim of what in reality is what he puts through others. He needs to be exposed, and he needs to be a known LGBT queer infamous creeper. And he deserves to be alone until the day he dies for hurting people, because I just know CancerChaser has victimized many people before the victim who came out. Nobody deserves CancerChaser as a boyfriend. He filthy scum and in the same league as sexual predator who typically targets and grooms minors. I am very surprised people have not paid any attention to his atrocities despite my efforts of sharing this all over Facebook. He is also a massive habitual liar, too. And the nearby police of CancerChaser and his victim are incompetent as hell. I bet they are just as corrupt as the one in Minneapolis. I seriously hate creepers like CancerChaser, and I will never rest until he faces the consequences he deserves. He gives homosexuals and chubby chaser like us a horrible name as if it was a slur. Here is the next one. I had to censor identifying information as the original text gives away the real name of CC.
This disgusting pervert, CancerChaser, is one of the worst people I have ever seen, and by far the worst gay person I have seen. Just because he has a crush on someone does not mean they are in a relationship. His selfishness knows no bounds. In fact, he might not actually selfish, but driven by lust, and he is willing to hurt as many people as hard as possible just to service his lust. That is very wrong of him to do, and makes me fucking sick that he needs to try to override crucial important matters. He thinks his lust is the most important priority everyone around him has to deal with, when that is wrong. You have to be a massive asshole to pull that shit on people. I cannot have any sympathy towards him based on all the bullshit he has put people through, especially his target. Manipulating kind and generous people. He makes me sick. He deserves to get exposed for everything he has done. I also heard he has said some fucked up shit about racial minorities, too. What an all-around scumbag. And I've heard people have been enabling him. Anyone who enables CC and his scummy behavior is no different than him. They are supporting and championing a perverted stalking monster's lust and don't deserve any justice either. CC and people that support him are the fucking worst.
Those were wonderful testimonies. Thank you for your respective contributions. And last but not least, you may recall AA from Chapter 8 of CancerChaser. Here is his thoughts on CC as whole. He has hired Monkey Jones on Fiverr as a voice to express his views. I have edited the audio to redact and replace out CC's real name from the original audio. CancerChaser
is a self-righteous prick who only likes men for their bodies. He has no fucking regard for anyone's obligations such as appointments or work. He also has no self-restraint and resorts to harassment. He is a disgrace to gay men everywhere. Fuck
CancerChaser
easily the worst friend ever.
Thank you to everyone who has agreed to share their testimonies to bring the horrible harassing creeper known as CancerChaser justice.
(2023) Update. My life is much different from the days of 2016 and 2017. Those days were pretty dark with my depressed mood along with being hurt and exploited by CC. But these past few years after 2021 were amazing. A far cry from the likes of Chapter 5 and 6 era and the Chapter 8 era, even more for sure. I have received the support I desperately wanted in the mid-2010s and very grateful to have that. I also made some new good friends as well. I even had feelings for a few men and hang around with one particular one very much and loved being in his presence. Not only is he a good person unlike CC, but his looks outclass CC by at least 5 points. As for CC, wherever he appeared, I would not say a word to him. Keep a large distance away from him, and observe him while I keep expanding the gap until we are not even readably viewable. If he would spot me, he would turn his head at me often with a negative expression at me that seems to be a mix of strong anger and for some reason apparent fear. One day I was at a bench and CC walked by. I didn't notice him until he was a few feet away from me. I immediately got up and started walking away until he started speaking me about how I keep talking so much crap about him on the internet. I didn't respond and kept observing him. I took off as he was walking away. He was not specific with what he was talking about. If he is not talking about this blog, then there's no reason for him to saying anything like that to me. Last time, he claimed I was subscribed to his channel and I sent him threats, which is not true. He has demonstrated himself to be a liar and a consistent harasser who is vulgar to me, all because I was tired of his abuse and didn't let him force me to quit my job. Unless it is about the CC blog. He is just doing the harassment rounds because he is dealing some unknown problem and lashing out at me out of convenience. Typical low-life behavior of him. If he is talking about the CancerChaser blog, he reaps what he sows. His abuse was revolting. He cannot honestly believe that he can try to change someone else's life and priorities because he says so or say all kinds of nasty and hurtful messages in response while expecting no consequence. What he did in late September 2017 was very wrong objectively, and what he did in response and more weeks later was even worse. Just because the police wouldn't bother with CC does not make his actions any right. On the internet there is controversy over anything slightly disagreeable. Does he honestly expect that he would actually get away with all the abuse he did to me, especially the claims that I was never good to him? His nastiness would naturally be returned back to him, as that is how he treated me. What goes around comes around. He is the one who instigated the situation with his attacks. It is natural that there would be a response. CC is not powerful enough to properly quash me, and what he did was justified for him to be exposed. Like in Chapter 3. E-begging is considered a massive crime and is often taken like a felony to the point that people have been cancelled for asking for money on the internet. Back in the same time period of Chapter 4. There was a scandal that surrounded a Switch launch line involving a man who ran a GoFundMe campaign for flight money and was attacked viciously by a community over the lack of transparency along with several other factors. Said person who was targeted even has the same sexual orientation as CC. Much more recently, a YouTuber known as Illuminati has been exposed for her massive amounts of abuse that she inflicted at the people that worked under her as well as her ex-boyfriend. CC deserved to be attacked on the internet for what he did. Given his horrible behavior, it is only natural he would receive hateful negativity returned to him one way or another. Although, I do not condone the death threats at CC. It is just that CC would be receiving blowback. Whether indirectly or directly. His heavily abusive bullying through phone and email makes him a wretched, virulent person, especially in the context of his selfish desires he pushed on me. He doesn't like it? Too bad. He should have never been so nasty after he screwed up badly by interfering with my job schedule. It's called accountability. He needed to understand that in his formative years and yet nearly middle-aged he still has the mindset of a spoiled child, while acting like one at a younger adult. This blog wouldn't happen if he just simply stopped talking to me, instead breaking boundaries. If he feels he can just violate said personal boundaries, he has to accept the repercussions that would happen. The world does not revolve around him. People his age are naturally expected to have accountability. Hopefully I hope to never have to talk about CC ever again. I really want to move on.